What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6 et. Chapter 107 Brand new Myriad Realms props, Spiritual Time House. Advertisement. Outside, Zephyr's dark fruit awakened form is still shocking. Sengoku at the bow was also happy about it, and his dissatisfaction with monks, blocking the door, also subsided a lot. After all, the improvement of Zephyr's combat power can be regarded as the improvement of Marine's overall strength in disguise. On the escorting warship on the other side, Kizaru widened his eyes and said to himself, the awakening of Logia Devil Fruit. I don't know what will happen if my sparkling fruit awakens. Kizaru is looking forward to it, but also curious about the name of his fruit awakened form. At this time, Kizaru suddenly heard Monk's voice, only listening to the door of justice. Monk smiled and said, Kizaru, the form of your devil fruit after awakening is called Tiga. Kizaru was taken aback for a moment, and then asked in surprise, Digia. Why is it called Digia? What does Tiga mean? Monk smiled, but didn't answer. He's just talking nonsense. On the gate of justice, Zephyr also converged back to his awakened dark fruit form. With a smile on his face, he said to Monk, as expected of a super magical item, after taking it, the fruit's ability will be awakened directly. Monk chuckled and continued fishing without answering. There are 6 opportunities left for the 8 times of super fishing, and the results of the next 2 times will be obtained soon. They are the Air Force, Consolation Reward, Superior Motai, and a high-grade Shondo Lucky Bag. 2. Advanced Fairy Bean Lucky Bag. Monk couldn't help being stunned. Why does super fishing produce high-end things? He quickly looked at the system, and then he almost understood. The number of high-grade fairy beans that can be opened by the lucky bag is between 10 to 25, and the value lies in the quantity. The price of super fishing is 1 billion Baileys, while the price of advanced fishing is 100 million Baileys. Even if the lowest price is 10 high-grade fairy beans, it is not a loss. Monk didn't plan to give it to others, and just left it for himself to replenish the inventory. Thinking of this, Monk immediately opened the lucky bag, and finally opened 16 high-level fairy beans. Monk is quite satisfied with this result, and it is a small profit. Keep fishing. With the sound of the system sounding in my mind again, the result came out again. Congratulations to host for obtaining Bing Bing Fruit. Congratulations to host for obtaining Universal Experience Point Lucky Bag. Listening to the sound of the system, Monk thought it was okay with such a result. Monk said before that his favorite fruit is Bing Bing Fruit, and now he finally got it. And it is still obtained from super fishing, and it can be awakened directly after using it with a high probability. Thinking of the awakened Monk can't help but brighten his eyes. Speaking of dark fruit, after awakening, it has its own special effects. If I use the awakened form of Bing Bing Fruit ability, will it also have its own special effects? After all, both are Logia. Thinking of being able to give himself a cool special effect, Monk couldn't help looking forward to it. Then Monk opened the all-purpose experience point lucky bag again, and this time he got 436 experience points. Although it was a little less than before, it was still considered a profit. Unknowingly, 8 super fishing can only be done 2 times. No new magical items appeared in the first 6 fishing attempts. Momosugi and Hina will have nothing to improve if there are no other magical items coming out. After thinking about it, Monk decided that if the last 2 magical items still couldn't improve the 2, then each of them would give a battery. Momosugi is a strong swordsman herself, and giving her own lightning pill is like adding wings to a tiger. As for Hina, although she doesn't use knives very much, her main combat power comes from her devil fruit, Cage Fruit. However, the Dianguang pill can inject her with profound sword skills, which can also bring a huge improvement to her. Thinking of these, Monk soon started the 4th special fishing. For a while, Monk was quite emotional. He had to say that if he hadn't become Sengoku's nephew when he traveled to this world, he probably wouldn't have the strength he has now. The system is really good, but it costs a lot of money. In a short period of time, 8 billion Baileys were thrown down like this. Now the super fishing is also very fast. Within a few minutes, the system voice sounded in Monk's mind. It's a pity that I couldn't fish any Wanji props, and I got the Air Force Consolation Reward. Supreme Motai. Congratulations to the host. Get the Myriad Realms prop Spiritual Time House. Monk originally heard the Air Force Reward earlier, and felt that this time the special class should not have anything eye-catching, but he did not expect that there was a new Myriad Realms item. Spiritual Time House, a good Fang Keto tool. Monk remembers that this one is something in 7 Dragon Balls, which can quickly improve a person's cultivation progress. As long as the means of improvement is that the flow of time inside will be faster than outside, as for how many times, Monk forgot. In addition, the gravity inside is heavier, which provides pressure to people and makes it easier for people to improve their strength under the weight. Advertisement. However, the system will be improved, and I don't know what will happen after the improvement. By the way, Monk thought while licking his lips and waiting for the next system improvement. Cultivation is completely out of reach with him. Monk will never practice, so it seems that this thing has no effect on him. How can a bad life be practiced? So this mental time room doesn't really do much for Monk. Or sell it to your uncle. As for giving it to his uncle for the sake of family affection, Monk would never do such a thing. After all, Marine does not belong to Sengoku, and Sengoku abdicates after 2 years, so this spiritual time room is not owned by the Meng family. So Monk will definitely not give it to Marine, but sell it to Marine, or collect ticket money. If you want to practice, you must pay yourself. Both of these methods are good. As for which method to choose, Monk decided to see how the function after subsequent improvements would be, before making a decision. Perhaps because the mental time room is relatively complicated, the improvement this time is unexpectedly long. Having nothing to do, Monk also took this opportunity to take out 2 electric light pills from the universal capsule, and then gave each of Momosugi and Hina a handle. Here, the 2 of you each have a handle. Although it is a foreign object, it can also bring you a lot of improvement. When there are good things in the follow-up, I will help you improve your inner self. Momosugi and Hina didn't refuse either, and of course they didn't show any dissatisfaction. Monk's willingness to give them lightning pills is pretty good. Except for Akainu who has his own lightning pills in Marine, other people who want lightning pills need to apply to Marine for temporary borrowing, and lightning pills are not their own property. And Momosugi and Hina now have their own god-level sword, and they can become the world's #1 swordsman if they hold it. Especially Momosugi, who is a swordsman himself, the improvement is even more obvious. Below Sengoku also didn't say anything about Monk giving Momosugi and Hina each a lightning pill. Although it is said that Monk's fishing this time is the money obtained by breaking the rules, but if Sengoku was not sitting in the position of marshal and had to obey the rules, he would not blame Monk and others at all, on the contrary, he would get so much for them happy with money. The money that Monk and others fought for and fished by themselves, he will not ask Monk and others for big benefits, and will only compete with Monk and others for relatively small benefits in the future. For example, fairy beans, universal capsules, arbitrary doors, etc. This will be of great help to the next big war that is very likely to happen. Kizaru's eyes were full of envy when he saw Hina and Momosugi got their own lightning pills. He looked at Sengoku, and couldn't help complaining. Yo, Marshal, you missed my future. If Sengoku had answered CJAC that night that he had resigned and transferred him to Monk's side, wouldn't Kizaru have a chance at the gate of justice now? Wouldn't he also be able to reap huge benefits now? Isn't Sengoku delaying his own future? Sengoku glanced at Kizaru angrily, and said coldly, shut up. If it weren't for being a marshal he couldn't swear, otherwise he would definitely swear at Kizaru. Timas. If he really fires Kizaru and lets Kizaru stay beside Monk, I'm afraid that the whole Marine will be messed up, and everyone will desperately want to squeeze to Monk's side, wanting to hug his thigh to gain benefits. In this way, who will practice Marine? Will it still perform the task? Everyone just wants to enjoy with Monk, and then rely on Monk's magical items to improve. So Sengoku will definitely prevent that from happening. He has already made up his mind, no matter who wants to push someone to Monk's side, he will never agree. Outside world. After Shichibukai and others saw the Dianguang, they started talking immediately. Is this the lightning pill? Moria asked the other Shichibukai around. It's a high probability, Jinbei replied after looking carefully. It is consistent with the description in the newspaper. When it is not in use, there is only one hilt. When it is in use, it will grow a laser-like blade. Blackbeard, who was originally talkative, didn't speak at this time. It wasn't because he was thinking about the lightning pill. It was just hit by the awakening of Zephyr Dark Fruit. I am still living in autism and doubting my life. Hancock didn't know when she came to the bow. Her beautiful eyes looked at the lightning pill on the gate of justice, and then turned her head to look at Hawkeye. Advertisement. He couldn't help drawing the corner of his mouth and said, the handle of the knife seems to be a magical item that pulls you into the altar. Ah, with a chuckle, Hancock raised his eyebrows and said, don't you have any fluctuations in your heart? Hawkeye. The Queen's question made everyone present look at Hawkeye. Hawkeye stood up, his face was still paralyzed, and he couldn't see any inner fluctuations. He said lightly, the main purpose of my visit this time is to meet Dianguang. Since I've seen it now, all that's left is to try it out. While talking, Hawkeye stretched out his hand to hold the hilt of the sword behind him, and then pulled out this huge supreme sword, Black Sword Knight. Without any greeting, Hawkeye immediately raised the black knife Yi, and swung it down in the next second. Immediately, the sharp knife energy of Ultimate appeared, and a huge light green knife light swept towards the Gate of Justice. On the Gate of Justice, when Hawkeye drew his sword, the monks noticed it immediately. But what I didn't expect was that the one Hawkeye wanted to slash was himself and others. Zephyr couldn't help but stare angrily. Hawkeye. Are you courting death? Black mist gradually appeared on Zephyr's body, quickly wrapping his body to form an armor. He wants to take out Dark Fruit's awakened form, Gravitational Monarch. It is still the special effect that makes Monk very envious, and the sky is gradually shrouded in darkness. This makes Monk. I muttered in my heart. I pray that Bingbing Fruit will also have its own special effects when it awakens. And waiting for the Gravity Monarch to move, an obviously drunken voice suddenly sounded. Didn't the B*********** D Hawkeye want to see the advanced sword skills of Dianguang, or he? How good is your sword skill? Since that's the case, are you still making a fuss? When the old man comes to meet him, he will defeat him with his proud sword skills. The appearance of the voice made everyone a little surprised. Looking for the sound, they saw that Garp did not know when to use any door to appear here. Vice Admiral Garp. Both Momosugi and Hina were surprised. Garp didn't talk nonsense at all. He directly took one of them's lightning pill in one hand, held the flagon in the other hand, and then jumped up and slashed down. Only the lightning ball on the handle of the knife instantly appeared on the blade, like a laser-like blade. Garp swung the knife with one hand, and with a loud shout, Vice Admiral's eagle-eyed knife slashed and disappeared. Garp. I remember that he seemed to be a strong physicist, but with the knife, he instantly tore apart Hawkeye's knife energy. In midair, Yin Zeng fell rapidly. How come? Moria only felt her scalp go numb. Garp used Nika form to stand on the sea, because random demons do not have the curse of normal devil fruit, so Garp's ability can also affect the sea, turning the sea into an oak. Because his attack was just a test, he made a random slash. I will only use the sword skills given to me by Dianguang. Let us make a choice. Wei is the world's #1 swordsman. Shichibukai and others were all shocked in their hearts. Glue. You, look at Garp's appearance, this is the Nika form mentioned in the newspaper. Originally, everyone in Shichibukai thought that Garp would use moonwalk to stay in midair. Shichibukai is no stranger to marine 6 styles. That's right, Garp just stood on the surface of the sea. Garp held the jug in one hand and the lightning pill in the other, and said loudly to Hawkeye, I don't use the devil fruit ability to attack, I only use the ability to allow me to act on the sea. Garp gets excited with a drunken look. This is the first time they have seen such a scene. I also don't know how to use physical skills. However, to the surprise of all Shichibukai, Garp landed in the sea and then stood on the sea. A rare phantom beast. Hawkeye also raised his eyebrows, but he didn't say anything. Everyone in Shichibukai was a little surprised. Advertisement. Chapter 108 Monk. Uncle, do you want to sell you a magical item? Advertisement. Garp appeared here because he wanted to vent his boredom through fighting. Ace was caught, his identity was revealed, and the 5 elders directly ordered the public execution. Everything says that Ace will die soon. This makes Garp feel very painful, not because Ace is Roger's child, but because Ace is the one he grew up with. It can be said that Garp has regarded him as a family. The family was sentenced, how could his grandpa not be sad? Garp thought of this, his body exploded with infinite saber intent. He said that he doesn't use Haki, Taijutsu and devil fruit abilities, he only uses the advanced sword technique given to him by lightning ball. The terrifying breath rose up, and the surrounding sea seemed to feel the fear and began to boil, and the waves were rough. In the distance, the faces of Shichibukai and others changed dramatically. Moria didn't want to say anything else at all, and immediately asked people to drive the boat away from here. If it doesn't affect it, it will be very troublesome. Tyrant, Shang's complexion has changed, his aura is so strong. The most frightening thing is not this aura, but the aura emanating from Garp is obviously saber aura, not the oppressive feeling from his Haki and his powerful body skills. Shang also chose to leave the scene. While Hancock was stunned, he hurriedly ordered, get out of here. She is confident that she can dodge if it is affected, but the members of her crew can't. It's unbelievable that the powerful saber energy actually comes from a marine's physique ceiling. Monk's advanced knife skills of magical item transmission are not kidding. The surrounding Shichibukai have chosen to stay away from the area where Hawkeye is located. Hawkeye didn't care about them, feeling the terrifying sword intent erupting from Garp on the opposite side, even the world's #1 swordsman was a little amazed. The breath alone is as sharp as a blade, and it can make people feel raw pain when it is scraped head-on. Hawkeye has already believed it now, as long as he holds this magical item called Dianguang in Monk's hands, he has the sword skills to become the world's #1 swordsman. But this kind of cognition actually made Hawkeye's heart unacceptable. I have pursued a swordsmanship for so many years, and have gone through countless hardships to reach the peak level of a swordsmanship. Now other people can keep pace with him as long as they hold a knife. What are you kidding? He wants to fight and let people all over the world know that his eagle-eyed sword skills are the best in the world no matter what. The hawk-eyed pupils became sharper, the circle eyes became deeper, and the line of sight was like a sharp knife. In the next second, Hawkeye also burst into an extremely powerful aura. The breath swept out, stirring up thousands of waves, and then collided with Garp. The two strands of sword energy continued to bombard like this, bursting out a torrent of power. The whole sea is more boiling. On the Gate of Justice, Monk was quite surprised. There is an effect similar to Conqueror's Haki. Zephyr sneered at the side and said, whatever the path, whether it's physical skills, sword skills, or devil fruit, and Haki cultivation to ultimate are very powerful. The reason why Conqueror's Haki is better is because it is special and can be attached to any field to enhance the attack. Monk nodded. That is indeed the case. Haki is more like an auxiliary function. While deterring the opponent, it can also increase its own attack power by winding it. By the way, Haki also has a function, that is, the powerful Conqueror's Haki can invalidate the devil fruit ability that other people have on themselves. Just like in the original timeline, Poison Q exerts his devil fruit ability on Luo, turning him into a woman Ro can resolve with his own Haki. Thinking of this, Monk couldn't help touching his chin and looking at Zephyr. Can the powerful Haki nullify the ability of dark fruit to nullify devil fruit? When Monk's thoughts diverged, the auras of Garp and Hawkeye below exploded, and the duel of sword chi did not come to a conclusion. Garp laughed, took a sip of his drink, and threw it away. Facing Hawkeye, he said, Hawkeye, your position as the #1 swordsman in the world should change hands today. Garp exerted force on the soles of his feet, and in Nika's form, he directly stepped on the sea and rushed over. The speed was so fast that waves of more than 10 meters high were set off on both sides. So fast. Jinbei was surprised. This kind of speed can only be achieved by a strong physicist like Garp. The other Shichibukai also watched Garp's attack in shock. Advertisement. On Hawkeye's side, facing Garp's attack, he didn't panic at all. The black knife in his hand, Yi Gaoju, slashed down again. A knife is not worthy of being the #1 swordsman in the world. If Garp wins, it won't be Garp ascending to the throne of the world's #1 swordsman, but the knife of Dianguang, the sword skills covered in this knife. When the slash fell, the saber energy rose instantly. Hawkeye didn't stop for a moment, and continued to slash, striking out streaks of saber energy. Faced with several sword chi, Garp did not choose to slow down, and still maintained a high speed. After dodging the first few sword chi in a row, Garp followed up with the next knife chi. Ha 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 ha. That's it, Hawkeye, come here, let's have a good fight. Garp was constantly looking for a vent, but when he broke through Hawkeye's saber energy and came to where Hawkeye was, he found that Hawkeye had disappeared in place. Garp's observation Haki made him look up instantly, and he saw Hawkeye in midair, with the black sword Yi in his hand straddling his side, making a movement of drawing the sword. Garp, we don't need to grind, let's use this knife to decide the winner. Below, Garp scoffs, just what I want. He stood on the surface of the sea, and immediately clenched the voltage in his hand. The best cut in the world. The door of justice, the corner of Monk's mouth twitched. In midair, Hawkeye ignored Garp's vulgar moves at all, and the black knife on his waist burst out with an extremely sharp aura. The aura turned into breath like a black flame wrapped around the night. Night falls, all things perish. On the gate of justice, Monk was suddenly a little curious. Did Zoro learn his name from Hawkeye? But thinking about it, it doesn't seem to be the case. 2 years ago, Zoro already had many fancy move names. Nightfall, all things destroyed, and world's number 1 slash, waved out together. 2 terrifying sword chi appeared. Moria was already trembling with fear. Keep driving, keep driving. The blow of 2 top powerhouses in this world may have a very wide impact. Even Blackbeard, who was extremely confident in his abilities, felt inexplicable fear when he saw the 2 people slashing with all their strength. His dark fruit probably won't be able to fully absorb the energy of the sword. Will he be killed? The 2 streams of saber energy collided quickly, and the sea area with a diameter of half a kilometer exploded. That's right. It exploded. Moria, Hina, and some weaker ones couldn't open their eyes at all. Even looking directly, I feel a little pain in my eyes. Hawkeye watched his blow, praying that his blow would shatter Garp's attack. However, what Hawkeye didn't expect was that after a long stalemate, his attack was actually retreated by Garp's attack. What? This time, no matter how paralyzed Hawkeye was, his complexion changed. His best shot lost to Garp's best shot. All the Shichibukai below also exclaimed. Hancock couldn't believe it. Hawkeye lost. The #1 swordsman in the world has actually lost. Although neither side was injured, both sides used their full strength for the final blow. Under full strength, Hawkeye's knife is not as sharp as Garp's knife, which shows that Garp is more powerful. No, it should be said Monk's magical item Lightning Ball is even more powerful. But in-depth analysis, although Garp didn't say not to use physical skills and other aspects, but his background is there. If someone else holds the lightning pill, it may not really be able to win the victory just now. Jinbei rational analysis said. This point is indeed correct. Dianguang's saber technique is powerful. Without a strong person to hold it, it cannot exert its full power. At this time, a laugh sounded. The thief, ha 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 ha. How reasonable is your analysis? What's the use of that? Why don't you say that Garp didn't practice sword skills at all? You know, all most of the world wants to see is results, and Garp wins. The world's #1 swordsman has changed hands, and the strongest swordsmanship belongs to open black lens bracket Dianguang close black lens bracket. Blackbeard's laughter resounded throughout the audience. He felt excited inexplicably. The fishing fruit was so awesome, so awesome. Gotta get it, gotta get it. Advertisement. Blackbeard roared frantically. Now he has put the fishing fruit in the position of the strongest devil fruit. Ask for flowers. What shit shock fruit, in front of the fishing fruit is garbage. On the gate of justice, Monk chuckled lightly. I have to say, this fellow Blackbeard can actually become a philosopher. That's right. People in this world only value results, and the final result is that Hawkeye lost. This time, Hawkeye's title of #1 in the world no longer exists. Dianguang pill ranks first in the world. Below, Garp retracted the lightning pill and used Nika's ability to go to EVENE. After returning the lightning pill to Hina, he looked at Monk and wanted to say something, but he never said it. Finally, under the puzzled eyes of everyone around, Garp said to Monk, your wine is delicious, but I don't like it. It can't make people drunk. Monk chuckled, but didn't answer. Indeed, Motai is delicious and can be enjoyed physically and mentally, but it has a shortcoming that it cannot make people drunk. Garp also ignored Monk, restrained his Nika form, and left the gate of justice drunk. Monk saw that what Garp was going to say just now was not this sentence, but something else. Maybe he wanted to ask himself if he could save Ace, or maybe he wanted to see if he could intercede for Ace. But in the end, the justice behind Garp kept him from speaking. Just like in the original storyline, it was not Sengoku who suppressed Garp from taking action against Akainu, but the justice behind him. Monk didn't think about it either. It didn't have much to do with him whether Ace died or not. As long as it is not his own life, the life of Sengoku, Zephyr, Momoshiki. Hina is barely one, and the lives of these people are threatened, then Monk will choose to ignore them. Of course, if the value given to Monk is large enough, and it's not too much trouble, Monk will also consider it. Hawkeye below was defeated, but except for the change in expression at that moment just now, there is no change in expression now, look. I can't tell what his mood is. This made Monk admire Hawkeye quite a lot. How did this facial paralysis develop? As for Hawkeye, he wasn't as unresponsive as he appeared to be. Garp beat him with a lightning ball knife, leaving Hawkeye with a blow nonetheless. However, the person who can climb to the top of the world alone has an extremely strong heart, so it is not too much frustration to say that blows are blows. I plan to come to Marine to discuss after I go back to practice. After the sparring, the surroundings have returned to calm. At this moment, the system reminds Monk the improvement of the spiritual time room is completed. This made Monk overjoyed, and quickly looked at the system, wanting to see what functions the improved mental time room has. After carefully reading the introduction, Monk said that he was very surprised, but there were flaws, which made Monk decide to sell this spiritual time house to Marine. Internal. Outside the Gate of Justice, Shichibukai and others couldn't help but be very concerned when they learned that this was a brand new magical item that had never appeared before. The reason for asking about the level is that Sengoku intends to prostitute Monk for nothing if the level is low, and forget it if the level is high, and the transaction will be traded. It's a new magical item. Sengoku couldn't help but smile. Premium. Monk replied, and then took out the open black lens bracket spiritual time room close black lens bracket. I don't know what this magical item is for. Sengoku at the bow asks the question everyone cares about. Monk, what is this new magical item called? In terms of appearance, it is no different from the Tenjin Palace in the Seven Dragon Ball. Behind the scenes, Akainu, Suru and Aokiji are all looking forward to this new magical item. All around, everyone's eyes lit up when they saw the item in Monk's hand. It looks like a miniature palace. Jinbei said about the appearance of the spiritual time room. The magical item in the special class should be incredible. Kizaru commented. Sengoku was a little surprised when he heard it, and couldn't help but quickly asked, what magical item? The current time room is still a pocket version, similar to a model, which just fits into Monk's two palms. After the decision was made, Monk couldn't help shouting down, Uncle, I have a magical item to sell to Marine, do you want to know about it? What is the function? After a pause, he asked again, what level did you get it from fishing? Advertisement. Chapter 109 The Heaven-Defying Attribute of the Spiritual Time Room. Advertisement. All eyes were on Monk, waiting for an answer from him. What is this new magical item this time, and what function does it have? It looks like a doll house. Monk chuckled and said, this new magical item is called Spiritual Time Room. Ignoring the reactions of people around when they heard the name, Monk continued to introduce himself. It's actually not that small. Strictly speaking, it looks like a huge palace. After a pause, Monk smiled and said, of course. It's not important. Those present were taken aback by Monk's words, the corners of Sengoku's mouth couldn't help twitching, and his face darkened. Since it's not important, what are you talking about? In fact, people like Marine don't think it's important, that's because they have already seen many magical items, and they are a little numb to some super magical phenomena of magical items. The seven warlords of the sea and others outside couldn't help being amazed when they heard that the small toy-like palace in Monk's hand was actually a huge palace. This magical item can be used for cultivation. As long as a person enters it, staying inside for an hour is equivalent to a week outside. As soon as this remark came out, the people present did not wait for Monk to continue the introduction, and violent noise broke out immediately. All go. What did the marshal's nephew just say? Are my ears broken? I also wonder if my ears are broken. 1 hour is equivalent to a week outside. Doesn't that mean that if you stay inside for a month, only 4 hours have passed outside? Who will tell me what the time ratio is? My shocked brain, 733, is down. The Marine soldiers were all talking, and there was a huge wave in their hearts. Behind the video phone bug behind the scenes, Akainu, Suru and Aokiji looked shocked. Hiss. Crane gasped. The difference in the flow rate of time is so big, if you use this practice, you can surpass the outside world by a lot. The appearance of this thing, it is estimated that many strong people in this sea will cry without tears. Aokiji and Akainu were silent, and did not choose to refute Crane's words, because what Crane said was not wrong at all. This time the new magical item will indeed make many top-tier powerhouses want to cry without tears. Because it is the same with both of them. This means that they have practiced so much before, and others can surpass them by spending more time. Fortunately, they are from Marine, so this spiritual time room can also be used. If you don't look at the talent, this thing directly let our Marine take off. Aokiji murmured. Akainu also recovered from the shock, but quickly outlined the corner of his mouth. If you cooperate with Mautai and Wazi to practice, the effect will be even better. Aokiji raised his eyebrows, feeling moved. That's right. Marine also has artifacts to assist in cultivation. If this happens, Marine will usher in an unprecedented increase in combat power. At this time, he said a question that she was very concerned about, that is, staying inside for a month is equivalent to 4 hours outside, so if this is the case, people inside will not age faster than those outside. Crane's question silenced both Aokiji and Akainu. They really don't know the answer yet. Aokiji touched his head and said, this is really a troublesome problem. I can only ask Monk later. If so, then this spiritual time room has a very serious drawback. In this way, the lifespan of Marine soldiers and generals will be greatly shortened. Although they feel that their lifetime has not changed, in the eyes of outsiders, they slaughter the fields quickly. But if not, then the spiritual time room will be the first magical prop among Monk's magical props that can give benefits to all Marines. All Marines can quickly improve their strength. After pondering for a long while, he said lightly, I contacted Sengoku with a phone bug and asked him to ask his nephew if there are any disadvantages in this respect. Outside world. Sengoku at the bow is equally excited. This time the magical item is a cultivation artifact, and it is given to all Marines, unlike other magical items that can only be distributed by the young emperor. Coincidentally, this time Marine intends to publicly execute Ace, and it is very likely that a war will break out with the Whitebeard pirates. And this time this magical item appears, it is simply a godsend. Kizaru pouted, sighing with emotion. But he didn't have much interest, because he felt uncomfortable at the thought of practicing. Yo, Kizaru's eyes flashed suddenly, if he used this one to fish, wouldn't it mean that he could have more time to fish? Advertisement. Thinking of this, Kizaru suddenly felt that this spiritual time room is not bad. In the prison under the splint, Ace firmly grasped the window bars with Seastone's handcuffed hands. With a look of astonishment on his face, isn't Marine going to take off? On the gate of justice, Monk is all smiles. Pressing his hand, he said with a smile, everyone, don't get excited, I haven't finished my introduction yet. Not only is the time flow faster than the outside world, but the gravity environment inside is also stricter than the outside world, and it can even be increased according to your own tolerance limit, so that you can continue to challenge the limit. After Monk finished the introduction of Spiritual Time Room, Sengoku and other Marine soldiers were even more excited. Beyond the gates of justice, all the Shichibukai were shocked and speechless. After a long while, Moria exclaimed, not only is the speed of time horrifying, but also an environment suitable for cultivation, and you can even constantly challenge your limits. Moria, this, for a long time, and she didn't know how to describe the outrageousness of this magical item. Jinbei also frowned at this time and said, Marine has this spiritual time room, and it won't be long before she will completely cross the sea. Everyone present was silent, their eyes flickered, and they kept thinking about things in their minds. What Jinbei said is right, with this spiritual time room, as long as you give Marine some time, within a year or two, Marine's comprehensive strength may be unstoppable, completely capable of crushing 4 sea emperors with 1 army combat power. Although they are Marine's 7 warlords of the sea, they are still a little worried. Because at that time, Marine's comprehensive combat power will reach a level that no one can match. At that time, will Marine still need their master Shichibukai? Most likely it is not needed. In this way, Shichibukai doesn't have a good impression of this spiritual time room. Among the crowd, Blackbeard gritted his teeth. He used to think that he was very lucky, everything went smoothly after his debut, and his ambitions were being realized little by little, but now Blackbeard only feels that God is coming to disgust him. If Marine suddenly declared that he didn't need 7 warlords of the sea, wouldn't his plan be defeated? However, at this moment, Sengoku on the inner Crescent Bay Sea received a call from Crane, and immediately asked Monk a very critical question, that is, will aging be accelerated after entering the spiritual time room? Monk replied no, although the flow of time inside is faster, but the aging speed of the body is still the same as that of the outside world. This answer once again caused the Marine soldiers to burst into cheers like a landslide and tsunami. Doesn't that mean that the longer you stay inside, the longer your life will be extended? Does this look like time travel? Not to mention how excited the Marine soldiers are, the spiritual time room is simply an item that can only be created by God, a miracle. External, Shichibukai and others were once again deeply shocked. All of them opened their mouths wide, with expressions of shock and astonishment on their faces. Is there really such a thing in this world? Am I dreaming? Even the two with facial paralysis, Shang and Haki, seemed a little at a loss. After all, the ability of the spiritual time room really shattered the 3 views. On the gate of justice, Zephyr, Momosugi and Hina were also deeply shocked by this spiritual time room. Monk also ignored them, and continued to say to Sengoku, however, spiritual time room has a time limit. From the beginning of use, it only exists for 3 days, and the spiritual time room will disappear after 3 days. Will it disappear? Sengoku murmured repeatedly. All around, the Marine soldiers started talking after hearing that they would disappear. In this way, the things they just thought about can't be realized, and they can only be used in these 3 days. 4 hours is 1 month, 1 day is 6 months, 2 days is 1 year, and 3 days is an extra year and a half of practice. Although it was not as expected, Sengoku and other Marines were a little disappointed, but 1.5 years is still very good. Just in time for this preparation. It is possible to produce a batch of Marine elite soldiers before the war. Outside the gate of justice, Shichibukai and others breathed a sigh of relief after hearing that spiritual time room had a time limit. So far so good. There is a time limit, otherwise their Shichibukai would be worthless to Marine. Thief ha 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 ha. Blackbeard's mood brightened and he smiled. Advertisement. He said in a deep voice. This is also reasonable, the more heaven-defying something, the more restrictions or side effects it will have. This is the eternal truth of this world. Internal. Sengoku is no nonsense either, this spiritual time house he must have. Even if there is a time limit, it will add 1.5 years. He directly asked Monk for the price. Monk, considering that the current Marshal Marine is your uncle, let's sell this spiritual time house to Marine for 50 million Baileys. Monk, he just had a question mark on his face. Is this what Nima should say is my relative? Shouldn't a relative get some benefits for your nephew? 5,000 W Bailey. This is 5 times of intermediate fishing. Monk firmly refused. Afterwards Sengoku raised the price to 100 million Baileys, but Monk also refused. In the end, after negotiation, this spiritual time house was sold to Marine at a price of 800 million Baileys. Originally, Monk offered a price of 1 billion Baileys. After all, he could go fishing one more time, but Sengoku slapped him with a knife, and added 2 conditions, that is, Monk, Zephyr and others went to the Golden City to break the rules. Another condition is that Marine will buy from Monk the extra magical items he caught this time. Monk agreed. In the future, if there are universal capsules, memory bread, motai and wazi, these things he doesn't need will have a place to go. After discussing the value of spiritual time room, Sengoku said, okay, Monk. Show us the spirit time room now. Monk wanted Sengoku to take the money first, which made Sengoku depressed. Monk, I am your uncle. Can I still not give you money? The main reason is that Marine has really run out of money recently, and the funds promised by World Government 5 Elders have not yet arrived, and now it is said that Marine can't afford the money now. Of course, this kind of thing can't be said, otherwise it will have a bad influence on Marine, and even make the army's morale fluctuate. After that, all the money will be settled together. Sengoku said to Monk angrily. Monk didn't bother with this anymore. Okay, for the sake of you being my uncle, I'll let Marine owe me the money first. But there is interest. Get out. Even if it was Sengoku, he broke the defense at this moment, because he scolded Mengdu. Around 3.1, the other generals couldn't help shaking their heads and smiling wryly. It's funny and helpless to behave like Monk, it's too oily and salty. And the forts at the Gate of Righteousness in the 4 weeks turned around one after another, and the muzzles of the black holes were aimed at Shichibukai. Shichibukai beyond the Gate of Justice. In everyone's horrified eyes, the spiritual time room turned into a huge palace, exactly the same as the Heavenly God Palace in the 7 Dragon Balls. Sengoku said in a low voice, let them in. But no one thinks that Monk is not, but thinks that this is Monk. Shichibukai can enter without Sengoku's order. Shichibukai himself has something to discuss with them. At the gates of justice. He didn't continue to talk anymore. Monk was afraid that if he continued, Sengoku would probably charge up and cut his head off. In the troubled times, it is necessary to constantly strive for benefits for oneself, and only such talents can keep going up. It's different from what they imagined. So start using open black lens bracket spiritual time room close black lens bracket. Out of curiosity, everyone started to jump up one by one, came to the gate of justice one after another, and looked at the spiritual time room on Crescent Bay. Monk, who was scolded by Sengoku, showed a bit of grievance, and continued, okay. And with a character like Monk, even if he doesn't have the fruit of fishing, he will certainly not be bad in this world. I saw that Monk was thrown into Crescent Bay by Monk, and the spiritual time room began to grow larger. Everyone in Shichibukai frowned when they saw the spiritual time room. Then it won't count as interest, and it will be regarded as my contribution to Marine. Advertisement. Chapter 110 created a mini-world. Advertisement. Although it is said that the spiritual time room covers an area of about 100 square meters, it is used for cultivation. Such an area is just a joke. When the strong are cultivating, even if they restrain themselves a little, 100 square meters are not enough. If you use the ability of Devil Fruit, such as Akainu, Aokiji and other large-scale ability users, then it goes without saying. In 7 Warlords of the Sea, the weakest, Moonlight, Moria couldn't help laughing out loud after seeing this open black lens bracket spiritual time room close black lens bracket. So small, ha ha ha, I casually absorbed a dozen shadows, and it seemed a bit crowded after I entered. I have to say, Moria really doesn't know the world. Although the other Shichibukai said they also despise this spiritual time house, they didn't say it out loud, even the most venomous Empress, Hancock, didn't make a sound. But Moria said such words. Immediately afterwards, Moria only felt a lion majesty crawling up his neck all over his body, making him feel the taste of death. He looked in the direction of the burst of murderous intent in horror, and saw the Lord of Gravity, that is, Zephyr staring at him. Moria backed away in fright, wishing she could find a crack in the ground. Just now Zephyr's use of Dark Fruit's awakened form left a deep impression on him, and now if Zephyr wants to kill him, it's an easy matter. Zephyr didn't really attack Moria, anyway, it was 7 Warlords of the Sea, and the rules still had to be followed. Staring at him is just to teach him not to talk nonsense. How about Monk's magical items, need outsiders to evaluate. Besides, Moria was still laughing, FAK was not happy about it. However, Zephyr himself was a little surprised by the size of this spiritual time room, as the magical items used for cultivation were really too small. Marine's practice site is nearly 10,000 times larger than this. Below, Marine and others started talking after seeing the spiritual time room. They originally thought it was the gospel of the whole Marine, but now they saw such a size, they were really stunned. If 100 people are stuffed in, the per capita area will be 1 square meter, right? It is difficult to wield a sword in such an area, let alone some soldiers are used to using firearms. On the bow of the escort warship in Crescent Bay, Kizaru let out a low, yo, and got up noncommittal. Behind the scenes, Suru, Aokiji and Akainu were equally noncommittal. Everyone looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes, but no one expressed any doubts. After witnessing so many unbelievable experiences of Monk's magical items, they instinctively believe in Monk's magical items and believe that they can bring them surprises. Akainu took a bite of the cigarette on his mouth, and at this moment he realized that it was Xiaoyan, that is, Wazi. He loosened his teeth, and then said, could it be the same effect as the super glue? Although his statement was a little vague, both Suru and Aokiji understood what he meant. He nodded and said with a smile, I thought so too just now, and I feel that it is very likely to be the case. Why? If it is a space compression like the universal capsule, then it is very reasonable. Outside, on Crescent Bay, Sengoku frowned slightly, but he immediately thought of the universal capsule. It looks small, but it actually has a giant space inside. However, this kind of thing is just speculation before verification, he asked in a deep voice, Monk, please explain. If this is really the only way, 800 million Pele is not worth it. I don't think it's too much to cut in half. Monk was speechless. He seriously doubted whether Sengoku was out of his mind. Although it is not wrong to say that he is the Marine Marshal, I am also your nephew anyway. He always thinks about making benefits for Marine, but he doesn't think about his nephew. Anyway, you have to fight for my benefits. Die hard old man. Monk cursed secretly in his heart, but didn't say it out. He rolled his eyes and said angrily, why are you talking so much nonsense? I'll tell you when I bring you in. If you talk nonsense, I won't sell it, even if it's left here for 3 days and waits for it to disappear, I won't sell it anymore. Sengoku also saw that Monk was angry, so now that Monk said so many rude things to him, he didn't say anything. In fact, Sengoku is also helpless. Advertisement. As the Marine Marshal, he is the pillar of the entire Marine, and every decision he makes is closely related to the Marine. Sitting in this position, you must consider the overall situation. Sengoku must be for everyone, not a small family, like Monk. Just like Zephyr, his family was killed back then, but as Admiral, he knew that he had to bury his grief in the deepest part of his heart. Sengoku nodded, then you take us in. As soon as this sentence fell, Sengoku saw a random door appear, and Suru, Aokiji and Akainu appeared on the plywood. They immediately came to join in the fun. Sengoku widened his eyes and scolded. You are in naval headquarters, as strong people, this distance is nothing, right? Do you still need to waste a random door? However, before Crane, Aokiji and others opened their mouths, another random door appeared. I saw Monk with Zephyr, Momosugi, Hina and others also appeared at the bow. Sengoku was even angrier. Monk and others are even more outrageous. As a strong man, it only takes a few seconds to jump off the gate of justice, right? Still need to waste a random door down. The door opened long enough for Zephyr and the others to come down. Monk cast a glance at Sengoku, the pit nephew, and said domineeringly, Sengoku, I'm using my own random door, it's none of your Marine's business, as long as I don't think it's a waste. Then it's not a waste. 17. Sengoku was annoyed when Monk said that. But what Monk said is very reasonable, the arbitrary door is his own, and Sengoku has nothing to do with it. But Sengoku still said, Monk, don't be so childish. Your uncle, I am here for the stability of this world, not to squeeze your interests for the sake of Marine. Monk glanced at Sengoku and didn't argue with him anymore. As long as the aristocratic system exists, and the 5 elders and I am behind them hold the highest power in this world, then this world cannot be stable or peaceful. Do you understand socialism? Monk restrained his thoughts and diverged. He didn't care if the world was peaceful or not. Anyway, just have fun. Monk never pretends to be very tall, it doesn't make much sense. He is not a great man, nor is he a saint, as long as he abides by his own principles and does things. Sengoku also saw what Monk was thinking, his eyes flickered, this little b*******************. He understood that Monk's personality was completely different from his own, and he had to find a way to make him change. At that time, I will discuss with Zephyr, Momosugi and others. They have been with Monk for a long time, and they should know Monk better than myself. Thinking of this, Sengoku felt that Chunin couldn't help laughing bitterly, he didn't expect that his uncle was actually a nephew who was a stranger and didn't know him. Both sides quickly restrained their emotions. During this period, many Marine generals also arrived one after another. Even Kizaru got involved. Sengoku couldn't help but cast a glance at Kizaru, frowned and said, you still have a mission, so let's go to fulfill your mission. Although it is said that this is naval headquarters, but the important backbone of Marine has gone in, what if there is any change on Ace's side? Kizaru said, yo, as a fishing expert, what is he most interested in? Naturally, it is to join in the fun, Kizaru will not let go of such an opportunity. I saw him turn into a flash and leave the splint. Sengoku and other Marine generals thought that Kizaru was going to perform a mission, but they didn't expect that Kizaru would come back soon. And there is one more person in the hand, the guy, Ace. Everyone looked at Kizaru speechlessly, the guy is going to bring Ace together. Kizaru pursed his lips and said, Marshal, I bring Ace with me, so there is no problem. Sengoku just felt tired, didn't want to say anything more, and said in a low tone, if anything happens, you will take full responsibility. Everyone stopped paying attention to the matter of Kizaru and Ace, and turned to Monk. Advertisement. Monk didn't continue talking, and used any door again, intending to use the door to go to the door of the spiritual time room. Sengoku turned his face away and didn't want to look at it, and stubbornly refused to go through any door, jumped up from the warship and landed directly in front of the door of the spiritual time room. Monk also ignored his uncle, preferring to leave. And at this moment, Blackbeard's voice sounded on the gate of justice. Marshal, I also belong to the 7 warlords of the Sea of your Marine now, do I also have the right to visit together? Sengoku wanted to refuse, but the other Shichibukai also spoke up. Even Shang and Haki, who are always talking about many things, both spoke, hoping to go in and have a look. They are very interested in this spiritual time room. Sengoku thought about it. If the public execution of Ace is announced, if the Whitebeard pirates really want to go to war, they still need their combat power and help from these people. So he finally agreed. Grant them access to the mental time room. Although other marine generals said they were a little dissatisfied, for example Akainu, he was extremely opposed. But since Sengoku agrees, he has nothing to say. As for Monk, he didn't care anymore. Anyway, the spiritual time room was sold to Marine, and Marine could do whatever they liked. Soon, under the leadership of Monk, everyone entered the spiritual time room back and forth with curiosity and anticipation. Open the double 860 doors, and you will see a long corridor. The corridor is very dark. If there is no light in front of the end, it is estimated that you will be blind. Is there no light? Blackbeard couldn't help asking, looking around. The leader Monk said without air, what? Afraid of the dark? Blackbeard immediately shut up and didn't speak. He could mess with other people, even Marine Marshal Sengoku, but he couldn't mess with Monk. He sort of understood that Monk is a willful guy who doesn't like oil and salt. Soon, under the leadership of Monk, everyone came to the light at the end, and the scene inside appeared in front of everyone. The boundaries of this place can't be seen at a glance, and the entire ground is still made up of pieces of milky white floors. This kind of scene directly stunned the people present. This, so big, Moria's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. It looks like a miniature palace from the outside, but I didn't expect the space inside to be so large. Others are also dumbfounded. People like Blackbeard pirates, Hancock, Jinbei, Ace. Your magical item this time actually directly created a shrunken version of the world. My 3 views are shattered again. The ghost spider was a little lost. Monk shook his head. No. It's not endless, it can be regarded as an independent circular planet. Akainu couldn't help looking at Monk, and asked, is this endless? So call, re-explained a sentence. It's like a smaller version of the whole world. The magic of Monk's Myriad Realms props once again refreshed their cognition. Planet. Everyone repeated in surprise. Everyone looked at Monk with, God, eyes. Everyone has a look of horror. The faces of Shang and Haki changed for a while. Only then did Monk sound, this world seems to have no such concept as a planet. Didn't think so, Monk. This sentence once again subverted everyone's imagination. I originally thought it should be similar to the universal capsule, compressing the space. Everyone else is also curious about this question, which seems really endless. Everyone in Marine was also deeply shocked by the comparison. Yo, it really overturned my imagination again. Kizaru looked at Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 111 Collective Gravity Challenge. Advertisement. Everyone did not expect that Monk's magical item actually created a miniature world. It's outrageous. Sengoku couldn't help but smile on his face. Such a large venue can accommodate tens of thousands of people. No, tens of thousands of people talk too much. It is necessary to reserve a training site for the strong, but even this can provide a training site for nearly 10,000 people and create a group of elites. The 800 million Baileys are worth it. Of course, Sengoku just won't say it out, otherwise according to Monk's character, there is a high probability that the price will be raised. That would be bad. Everyone was eagerly discussing how they and others felt about the spiritual time room. And the gravity environment here is indeed bigger than outside. Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel, said. I can feel a little pressure. Ghost Spider nodded in agreement. The reason why everyone didn't notice when they came in at the first time was because most of the people who came in now were strong people. Even 3 admirals who rely on Devil Fruit's abilities are infinitely stronger than ordinary people. So the gravity environment inside does not have much influence on everyone. Even weaker ones, such as Hina, Ghost Spider, Moria, these people can move freely. Sengoku couldn't help looking at Monk, and said, Monk, you just said that you can challenge the limit or something, how to do it? The others were also very curious and looked at Monk one after another. For the strong, ordinary practice is actually very difficult to improve. If you want to improve, you have to constantly challenge the limit, and if you want to challenge the limit in the outside world, you have to fight with the strong. Monk touched his nose, and said lightly, it's very simple, just talk to the sky, the spiritual time room, and then add the gravity multiplier you need. The people around looked at each other after hearing the words, and they were all a little surprised. So it's gone. In other words, if this is the case, wouldn't it mean that this spiritual time room is also equipped with voice control? Is it so high-end? Sengoku was a little noncommittal, glanced at Monk, are you sure? He wondered if Monk had hacked him a few times on the price of spiritual time room, just now, and now he deliberately wanted to punish himself. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if he didn't respond after shouting to the sky? Seeing Sengoku looking at him suspiciously, Monk couldn't help but rolled his eyes, shrugged and said, I'm a very generous person, uncle. Sengoku pouted. Indo. Others say that they are magnanimous. Sengoku will believe it. Monk says that he is magnanimous, and he will not believe it even to death. If Monk is magnanimous, then everyone in the world can be considered magnanimous. Behind Monk, Zephyr, Momosuke and Hina also looked at each other, wanting to laugh but not daring to. If the Golden Emperor were here, he would probably cry, right? It can be said that I knew Monk a little bit at the scene, and when I heard Monk say that I am generous, I took it as a joke. Sengoku doubted again, and began to try. Spiritual time house, give me double 10,000. In the next second, a beam of light above the dome shone on Sengoku's body. In the light beam, Sengoku felt something, raised his eyebrows, then looked at Monk and said with a smile, gravity really doubled. After hearing that Sengoku confirmed that the gravity doubled, people couldn't help being amazed. Hey, it seems that this light beam has the effect of increasing gravity. The high probability is like this, and it is specific, those of us who are around can't feel the change of gravity at all. Double gravity, I don't know what it is like. However, Monk was speechless. He said unhappily, Uncle, you are still a top-notch powerhouse in Marine, even if you are a little more steady, can you not be so steady? What does double gravity do to your body? In fact, some people's behavior can indeed judge some of this person's personality. Sengoku's personality is relatively well-behaved and rigid, so he is relatively stable in his actions. Sengoku said unhappily, you want to take care of it. Monk also ignored it, took out the easy chair, drinks and snacks from the capsule, and planned to watch the show on the sidelines. Basically, everything that needs to be said in the mental time room has been said, and how Marine and the others will play next, they can play by themselves. After almost finishing their experience, Monk doesn't plan to go back to the Gate of Justice to continue fishing. Sengoku took a look at Monk and was furious at seeing him so slack. As an elder, it is naturally unacceptable. Just as I was about to say a few words about Monk, I suddenly thought of a better way. Advertisement. This made Sengoku smile secretly. He asked, Monk, if you want, can gravity be applied to the entire audience? That is to change the gravity of the entire mental time room. Monk glanced at Sengoku, and replied after a second, of course it is possible. As soon as the voice fell, Sengoku laughed immediately, nephew, it's time for training. Sengoku raised his head and said directly to the dome, spiritual time room, the entire venue has 5 times the gravity. Immediately, the light beam on Sengoku's body alone disappeared, and the history of the audience increased 5 times. Suddenly, there was a sound of exclamation. I'm going, it's so heavy. Plop. Among the exclamation, there were many, plop, sounds of falling to the ground. Because Sengoku's choice was too sudden, the people present did not expect that he directly arranged 5 times the gravity, many people were pressed to the ground by the sudden increase of gravity. However, most of the people who can follow are generals, and their strength can be regarded as mid-level in Marine, so it is a bit embarrassing to say that falling down is not causing serious damage to oneself. This is also the reason why Sengoku dared to increase the gravity by 5 times. He still has a bottom in his heart. Knowing that such a multiple will not cause unnecessary injuries to everyone present. As for Shichibukai, Sengoku didn't think about whether they would get hurt. What's more, those who can become Shichibukai are all one party in this sea, and there is no problem with the high probability. But in Shichibukai, someone still fell, and that was Moria and Poison Q. It's not that Moria couldn't withstand 5 times the gravity, but it was too sudden, he wasn't prepared, and he just sat down like this when the bottom of his feet sank. He got up cursing Sengoku frantically in his heart. Can you tell me in advance? Wouldn't it make me feel ashamed and lose my family? No one else fell down, but he, a Shichibukai, fell down. As for Poison Q, Moria doesn't want to compare with him at all. Because Poison Q looks like he is about to die, and he is even more ashamed compared to this old, weak, sick and disabled person. At this time, Poison Q was pressed down on the ground by gravity and kept saying, yeah, yay. Help me, save me, my body can't handle it. However, no one paid any attention to him. On Sengoku's side, he quickly looked at Monk with a smile on his face, he was going to teach his nephew a lesson. However, he saw Monk still lying on the easy chair with a relaxed face, eating and drinking. There is a beam of light on his body. Now that the gravity of the entire field has been increased to 5 times, and only Monk has a beam of light, this beam is intriguing. Sengoku couldn't help but said, Monk, your beam is. Monk had an ultimate smile on his face. Uncle, this light beam is naturally exempting me from 5 times the gravity. I knew what you were going to do when you asked me if I could have the audience. Ha ha ha, Monk laughed. This made Sengoku's face black, and he didn't expect his plan to be seen through by this kid in advance. He couldn't help scolding. If half of your intelligence is used in training, your current strength will not be what it is now. Monk goes in the left ear and out the right ear. At the same time, I sighed in my heart. In a different world, the words of reprimand from the elders are still so few. If you do what you want, you can do what you want. 12,512,429 Philu 200,512,580. Seeing Monk's completely indifferent look, Sengoku let out a deep breath. He was going to ignore Monk, and Sengoku had given up on adding 5 times the gravity to Monk now. Spiritual time room. Just when Sengoku was about to lift the 5-fold gravity of the spiritual time room, Akainu interrupted. Marshal, there is no need to cancel the 5 times gravity now. Akainu looked at Sengoku and said. Huh. Sengoku looked at Akainu suspiciously. How? Although it is said that the time limit of the time room is only 3 days, practicing in it is equivalent to a year and a half. We are about to see what each general's tolerance limit is, and divide it into a level, so that we can make a plan for the follow-up. Akainu expressed his thoughts, probably that the generals now come to experiment in person, and then divide the gravity into a level. For example, Vice Admiral can withstand several times the gravity, Admiral can withstand several times the gravity. Although everyone is good at different things, this division is somewhat general. Advertisement. However, setting goals can give Marine soldiers something to look forward to, and can also improve the efficiency of cultivation. I also think this proposal is good. He, the chief staff officer, also spoke. Help me, save me. This can give Marine soldiers a goal. For example, as long as they reach their limit, they can surpass Ensign's limit, which can be the same as Rear Admiral's limit, which can make soldiers more active. Help me, save me. Not only for soldiers, but also for us generals. Where there is competition, there will be motivation. Help me, save me. Sengoku touched his chin, and after thinking about the proposal, he nodded and said, yes. Help me, save me, my body is about to die. The faces of all the Marines couldn't help but be stained with haze, and everyone else turned their heads to look in the direction of the Blackbeard pirates. Looking at the poisonous Q who has been calling for help. In Shichibukai, Hancock couldn't bear it anymore. She directly raised her head 90 degrees, pointed at the poison Q and said, I order you to shut up. It's really annoying to shout from now on. Two women, Momosugi and Hina, also showed dissatisfaction. Since you can't bear it, won't you lift the gravity on your body? Momosugi said angrily. Scream again, and I'll kill you with a knife. Poison Q lying on the ground shut up and stopped screaming, but he didn't touch the weight on his body either. This left everyone on the side speechless. Including Monk who was watching the show, he was also speechless. I have to say that there are so many wonderful things in the world of One Piece. Is this Oda's bad taste? Sengoku withdrew his eyes, although he said he was speechless to Poison Q, but in this way he also found a problem, that is. What if someone really couldn't bear the gravity, couldn't speak for the first time, and ended up in a tragedy? But after asking Monk, I learned from him that there is no such risk. Once a person reaches the limit and cannot bear the moment, the spiritual time room will automatically release the gravity on his body, which can be regarded as an insurance for everyone. Knowing that there is such a layer of insurance, Sengoku no longer hesitates. Get ready to start lifting gravity. The others also raised their spirits. Akainu thought to himself, I will definitely be the one standing in the end. Kizaru looked at Monk. He really wanted to be like Monk, eating snacks and drinking drinks to watch the show. But he also knew that this Zhao Qian Zhao was impossible. If he followed Monk to do this, he would be beaten to death by Sengoku. Everyone's thoughts are different, and they are also prepared. Sengoku said directly, Spiritual time room, the entire venue has increased gravity by 10 times. Plop plop, paper, ghost spiders, flying squirrels, etc. Although Vice Admiral can stand upright, they are under tremendous pressure. Help me. Gravity suddenly came to 15 times. Although Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru said that most of their combat power relies on Devil Fruit, their background is still much stronger than Vice Admiral, so 10 times the gravity still does not bring them too much pressure. If it continues to increase, it is estimated that Na and others will be out. On Hina's side, she gritted her teeth and wanted to stand up, but the 10 times gravity still made her unable to straighten up, and her whole body felt sleepy. In an instant, the gravity of the entire spiritual time room increased to 10 times. It seems that Poison Q wasn't weak 2 years ago, and he could be selected by Blackbeard. How weak is it? Monk's face was ashamed, the corners of his mouth twitched. Damn. Is this guy still alive? This time, even though everyone present was ready, the sound of falling to the ground was even more numerous. 10 times the gravity in the mental time room is almost the limit level of Rear Admiral. Monk, who was eating melons, watched with relish. On Shichibukai's side, Poison Q screamed again. Although Momosugi and T. Dolphin are also Vice Admirals, they are considered to be the best in Vice Admirals, so the pressure is less. The gravity of the spiritual time room itself is greater than that of the outside world, and now it is 10 times, which makes many people unable to stand up. Just when Monk was thinking about this, Sengoku spoke again. Spiritual time room, gravity increased by 5 times. Advertisement. Chapter 112 Extreme Gravity Challenge. Can't handle the highest 30 times in the audience. Advertisement. After Sengoku raised the gravity again, the gravity suddenly came to 15 times. In an instant, Hina's barely supported body was instantly pressed down by a more terrifying gravity. This made Hina scream subconsciously, and as soon as she was about to hit the ground heavily, the gravity acting on her was instantly removed. Although Hina still hit the ground due to inertia, the moment she was suppressed to the ground, the gravity acting on her was instantly released, so Hina fell to the ground. It was just an ordinary fall, and didn't do a lot of damage. Hina is out. At this time, Hina's body was no longer restrained, and she couldn't help exhaling slowly. Hina's body is full of sweat. She murmured while looking at her body. Hina was already profusely sweating after only enduring the short-term gravity. However, cultivating under such gravity can indeed allow a person to constantly challenge his own limit, thereby breaking through and improving. Although this kind of improvement is definitely not as fast as life and death battles can be death if one is not paying attention, at least there is no danger in the mental time bank. These 3 days, that is, a year and a half in the spiritual time room, Marine should be able to cultivate a group of strong people. Thinking of this, Hina couldn't help but look at Monk. Monk was still watching the show casually. When he saw Hina, he smiled and said, "Keep working hard." Quote. Hina couldn't help laughing, then nodded to Monk. I have to say that it is really maddening to compare people to people. Every powerhouse is cultivating desperately in order to improve his combat power, but this guy Monk can become so powerful without practicing. Seeing Monk's terrifying Conqueror's Haki in Ultimate last night, Hina was really deeply moved. Marine has never had a Conqueror's Haki top player like Monk in all these years. Hina let out a breath slowly, restrained her thoughts, and then looked around subconsciously. She was eliminated, and she wanted to see who else was eliminated like her. Under 15 times the gravity, no Rear Admiral Caller is also eliminated, lying on the ground and gasping for breath. Basically, the generals below Vice Admiral are all out, and in Vice Admiral, under 15 times the gravity, there are also a few who are bent over by the gravity, and even a few weaker ones are already lying on the ground, hands and feet and support it with hard work. However, because they have not reached the limit of their bodies, although it is very difficult, the mental time rhinoceros has not relieved the gravity on them. Monk, who was eating melons and watching the show, on the side, commented in his heart, it can be said that 15 times the gravity is equivalent to reaching the threshold of Vice Admiral. 10 times is almost the threshold of Rear Admiral. So the difference between Rear Admiral and Vice Admiral is not too big. However, this is also normal. Being promoted to a general does not necessarily mean that you have strong combat power. It is possible that you have made a penultimate contribution in Marine, so you have been promoted. And under 15 times the gravity, Momosuke and the T-Dolphin, the two leaders in Vice Admiral, can still straighten their backs, but it can be seen that they are already struggling. Both of them had to grit their teeth, and they had no other energy. A little higher is the three admirals, as well as Zephyr, Sengoku, and Suru. 3. Although Admiral said that it relies more on Devil Fruit as its combat power, it still has some background. Although I also felt the pressure, I still had to keep my back straight, and I even had time to talk. Although the veteran Zephyr said that he did not use the source of age to regain his youth, but with the help of Shondo, what he is doing now is that he is old and strong, and he can straighten his waist. It's just not as easy as San Admiral's. It can be said that he is eating his own money. After all, he is also famous for his physical skills. The last member of Marine is Sengoku. Although he is older, he is really strong and can walk. As expected of a legendary Marine. Monk said with emotion, he thinks that Marine will finally stay with Sengoku, the strong man who merged taijutsu and devil fruit. The only one who can compete with him is probably Garp. Furthermore, Garp is now Sun God Nika, and once transformed, he will be even stronger. It's a pity that Garp went to get drunk again after he just appeared. Shichibukai sighed. Under 15 times the gravity, Moriya's entire back was bent, but he still gritted his teeth to support. CJBF because he found that everyone on Shichibukai's side is still standing. If he is out of the game, wouldn't it be true that he is the weakest Shichibukai? Blackbeard looks weak, but in fact his strength should not be underestimated, otherwise he would not be able to leave 3 scars on the red-haired face. Not clenched fists enough to support. The rest of the Blackbeard pirates are not out. Badgers himself is a strong man, able to lift huge houses with his bare hands, and his condition is even better than Blackbeard. Advertisement. Lafayette and Van Oka are even worse than Blackbeard, not to say they are weak. Instead, one of them's strength lies in hypnosis, and the other's skill lies in shooting, which has nothing to do with the ability to withstand combat power, which is really embarrassing for them. But it can't be suppressed on the ground, and it can also be seen that the physical fitness will not flow to Vice Admiral. Next are Hancock, Jinbei, Shang and Hawkeye and Shichibukai. Hancock's words are similar to Momosuke's, and the pretty face is already relaxed, and Jinbei's words are slightly better. He is already a Murloc himself, plus he is a strong physicist, so the gravity he can bear is even more important. As for Shang and Hawkeye, although one is also very dependent on Devil Fruit's ability, and the other is a strong swordsman, they are still standing. Even the expressions on the faces of the two of them have not changed a little bit until now. Monk twitched his mouth and murmured, "How much hyaluronic acid did you use?" In the crowd, Sengoku said again, "Spiritual time room, 20 times the audience." Boom. At the moment when it reached 20 times, everyone seemed to hear a huge roar sounded in the audience. Under such gravity, the space seems to be different. At the same time, more people were eliminated. Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral, Ghost Spider and other stronger Vice Admirals were all eliminated. The two, Momosuke and T-Pig, were pushed even lower. The former can still rely on the support of his hands to not cling to the ground, while the latter is already clinging to the ground. However, the gravity on the two of them has not been lifted, which shows that they have not fully reached their limit. Zephyr paused slightly, his back bent, but soon he gritted his teeth, blushed and straightened his back again. The 3 admirals are similar, and Akainu is better than Aokiji and Kizaru. Kizaru saw cracks in his toad mirror, and then began to tremble. Yo, my glasses have been with me for a long time, and I don't want them to break. After speaking, Kizaru slowly raised his hand, and said, "Spiritual time room, release the gravity on my body." Kizaru took the initiative to release it, which made Akainu, Sengoku and others look at him, but they didn't say anything. After all, it's not surprising that Kizaru would do this kind of thing, he doesn't use his full strength for anything. Feeling relaxed, Kizaru pouted and sighed, then walked slowly towards Monk and asked Monk for snacks and drinks. The two Marine, bad kings, just ate, drank and watched the show. On Shichibukai's side, Moria was eliminated at the moment of 20x opening, without any suspense. Moria couldn't even support herself. As for the Blackbeard pirates, Blackbeard also fell to the ground, Wild Badgers, Van Oka, and Lafayette were all out. 20 times reached the limit of these people. Surprisingly, Poison Q, who had been screaming, shut up, but the gravity on him was still not lifted. If it weren't for seeing his eyes still blinking, everyone would have thought he was dead. However, the spiritual time room did not automatically disarm, and Poison Q struggled to open his mouth to allow himself to be in contact automatically. He didn't want to add to the pain. On the other side, both Jinbei and Hancock were kneeling on the ground. Jinbei watched his sweat tick heavily on the ground. But soon, his whole body was lying on the ground, and the tension on his body was released. With 20 times gravity, Jinbei can only hold on for a while. Although Hancock said that she hadn't been eliminated yet, she also took the initiative to relieve the gravity on her body. I won't play with you anymore. Hancock spoke proudly. She didn't have any ambition to compete with this group of stinky men to see who was strong and who was weak. Besides, the stronger the gravity that can withstand, does not mean the stronger the combat power, can't escape her, sweet fruit. Wouldn't he surrender to her beautiful face? Advertisement. Hancock and Jinbei were eliminated, and now the only remaining Shichibukai were Blackbeard lying on the ground, and Haki and Shang. Haki and Shang also had a slight expression change on their faces at this time, and the 20 times gravity also made them feel the pressure. However, the two still straightened their chests. Sengoku took a deep breath, he never thought that there could be so many people. Then it was time to compete for the finale. Without hesitation, Sengoku continued, spiritual time room. But Sengoku didn't wait for Sengoku to finish speaking. Haki and Shang also gave up on their own initiative, releasing the gravity on their bodies. Blackbeard on the ground saw the two lift off, gritted his teeth, and also chose to lift gravity. And the gravity of the scene suddenly came to 25 times. This gravity, Aokiji's face was extremely ugly. Under the tremendous pressure, the space of the spiritual time room seemed to be slightly distorted. But since it can reach 25 times, then there will be no problem in the spiritual time room. Only 4 people left, Sengoku, Zephyr, Aokiji and Akainu. Aokiji got down on one knee first, and Akainu bent down, but he still tried to keep himself from lying on the ground. Sengoku and Zephyr are not much better. Zephyr said with difficulty. I feel a bit difficult to breathe. As 25 times gravity so scary? Zephyr was a little dumbfounded. 25 times the gravity should feel nothing. Sengoku glanced at Zephyr, and said in a deep voice, did you forget? The gravity in the mental time room itself is different from the outside world. Zephyr stopped talking. Indeed, he almost forgot about it. Seeing that other people are still supporting, Sengoku couldn't help but said, then I will continue to increase the gravity. Everyone else around chose not to speak. Spiritual time room, increase 5 times. Boom. The gravitational force acting on the 4 of them suddenly reached 30 times. For a split second, Aokiji was on one knee, but now has to support himself on all 4s. After feeling it for a while, Aokiji finally chose to touch the body. Gravity. After the gravity was lifted, he let out a long breath, scratched his head and said, yeah, I feel like I came alive in an instant. Under the strong gravity training, I can really force my strength to improve. However, Aokiji feels a bit too hard. Gravity not only burdens the body, but also burdens the heart. Feeling oppressed all around, Aokiji didn't think about it anymore. Seeing that Kizaru was already eating and drinking with Monk, enjoying himself, he also got up and walked towards that side. He also wants to eat melons and watch a show. There are only 3 people left, Sengoku, Zephyr and Akainu. Under 30 times the gravity, Akainu could no longer stand, and also knelt on the ground. Zephyr also knelt on the ground, and he couldn't help cursing. Sengoku, you have reached such a heavy gravity, won't you improve little by little? Sengoku supported himself for a while, and finally chose to sit on the ground, which was easier. If you really can't hold on, you give up. Sengoku replied. Now Zephyr was upset. When we were both admirals, you were always under my pressure. You couldn't hold on. 11. Speaking of which, a black mist appeared on Zephyr's body, and then he turned into a warrior wearing black armor, the awakened form, the gravitational monarch. Immediately, Zephyr straightened his body, and laughed loudly. Spiritual time room, increased by 5 times. Sengoku couldn't help staring at Shion Zephyr with wide eyes. You. Akainu's expression changed drastically, and he cursed madly in his heart. Zephyr, you be asterisk 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 D. However, I couldn't think too much about the two of them, and the gravity suddenly reached 35 times. Asterisk 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 go. Advertisement. Chapter 113 inches blocking the door, fishing ends. Want a spirit house. Need to add money. Advertisement. Akainu cursed Zephyr furiously in his heart. This guy directly took out the devil fruit to awaken, and then increased it 5 times. Isn't this a scam? The gravity reached 35 times, and Akainu was crushed to the ground in an instant. Boom. Akainu hit the ground heavily, but the gravity on his body was not released, which shows that Akainu has not yet fully reached his own limit. However, this feeling really made Akainu very uncomfortable, and his body and mind were under tremendous pressure. Although he was a little unwilling, Akainu finally chose to lift the gravity of his body. Already lying on the ground, there is no point in holding on. Akainu, who had lifted the gravity, glanced at the cheating Zephyr, snorted coldly, and walked aside, shaking his cloak. On Sengoku's side, the moment he saw clearly what Zephyr was going to do, his whole body burst into golden light, and his body began to swell, turning into an angry-eyed King Kong. Thieves, ha ha ha, the fruit of human beings in the form of the Buddha is really dazzling. Blackbeard looked at Sengoku's form of the Buddha, his eyes were full of fire. For this, devil fruit hunter, who is keen on devil fruit, as long as it is a strong devil fruit, he likes it very much. Sengoku in the form of a Buddha crushed the ground directly under 35 times the gravity. This made Monk couldn't help taking a breath. How heavy is this? The foundation material of the spiritual time room is very special, and it can be crushed even by stepping on it. It's not a big deal though, the mental time room will heal itself. Sengoku and Jifa both used Devil Fruit's calendar area. The two are now on the bar, and everyone wants to stand to the end. The surrounding marine generals watched the gravity on the two of them increase to 36 times again, and couldn't help but swallowed. Just 20 times I feel like I'm about to suffocate, this 36 times. If it were me, I would probably die, right? Everyone is talking about it. In the end, this showdown came to an end under 39 times the gravity. Under such gravity, almost half of Sengoku's entire golden body entered the ground, and then he couldn't bear it. He transformed and disappeared, and the gravity on his body also disappeared. In the end, Zephyr got down on one knee and won. He couldn't help laughing out loud. Sengoku, you are not suppressed by me. Sengoku jumped up from the pit with a displeased face, and the ground immediately behind him healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, which made everyone present exclaim. It's amazing that the ground can heal itself. Sengoku said indignantly. The heavy gravity that can withstand does not mean that the combat power must be strong. Now you will definitely beat you to the ground if you compete. I don't care, I won anyway. Zephyr said with a grin. At the same time, I was amazed. The awakening of Devil Fruit really brought a huge improvement to people. As for the real battle, he and Sengoku will win and who will lose, Zephyr doesn't care about this. Anyway, he won the competition of gravity. This time the experience of the spiritual time house is over. Sengoku also ignored Zephyr. He was very satisfied with this spiritual time house. Even if you don't improve your gravity training after you come in, the gravity in the spiritual time room alone can help soldiers in their cultivation. Monk, the mental time room is pretty good. Sengoku laughed. Monk chuckled. Really? Then it will cost more. Hearing the extra money, Sengoku's face immediately became stern. Impossible. In fact, Monk really didn't want to add money. He got up and made the easy chair, snacks and drinks disappear with a single thought. This scene didn't seem strange to Marine, but it was the Shichibukai who watched the scene dumbfounded. What's the situation? Badgers looked at Blackbeard curiously. Blackbeard pouted. He didn't know what the situation was. Things disappeared in an instant. Where did they go? Monk ignored the surprise of Shichibukai and others, and just slapped his A and left. I'm still going to go fishing. I won't stay here any longer. As he said that, he ignored other people's mouths and walked towards the exit on his own. Advertisement. Seeing that Monk was about to leave, Zephyr, Momosugi and Hina hurriedly followed. Shao Kei, wait for me. Jumping Rabbit quickly followed. Wait too, Hina. Hina was almost exhausted just now. Seeing that Monk and the others were about to leave, Sengoku also said to the crowd, let's go out too. After finishing speaking, Sengoku looked at Shichibukai and the others and said, you follow Vice Admiral to the welcome area. I have something to talk to you guys later. Sengoku is going to talk to a few people about a possible battle with the Whitebeard pirates. Shichibukai and others have no objection either. They came to Naval Headquarters because they have something to discuss with Marine, that is, they want to obtain magical items from Marine. However, there was one person in the crowd who was different, and that was Haki. He came to the Marine Department just to see Dianguang, and now that he has seen the power of Dianguang, he planned to leave. But now Sengoku has something to tell them, and I'm afraid they won't be able to leave for the time being. Then Sengoku said to Crane again, Little Crane, the task of arranging Marine soldiers to come in and practice is entrusted to you. Crane nodded and had no opinion. Finally Sengoku looked at Kizaru again, and his tone suddenly became low. Kizaru, the task of escorting Ace must be completed quickly. If there is any mistake, Song Song is afraid that you, as Admiral, will not be able to bear the consequences. Kizaru said. Yo, Marshal, don't worry. After speaking, he grabbed Ace with one hand and headed for the exit. Ace was also forced to participate in the gravity showdown just now, but he was the first to be eliminated because he was restrained by the sea stone. But Ace doesn't care about this. What he cares about is that Marine now has this time room. Marine will be able to use this time room to train a group of elite Marines. If the father really breaks out with Marine in order to save himself, the consequences will be disastrous. Ace had a distressed expression, gritted his teeth, and prayed in his heart that his father would not come to save him. I'm just an extremely willful B*****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************�. Only a split second to know the time of the outside world after leaving the time room. People from the outside saw them go in, and then came out in the next second, but they stayed inside for at least dozens of minutes. This could not help but make everyone who entered feel deeply shocked. The flow rate ratio of time is really completely different. The heaven-defying function of Monk's magical items once again refreshed everyone's imagination. Next is intermediate fishing and elementary fishing. Monk did not plan how many times he fished at each level. In short, the intermediate fishing will stop as long as it catches the mission must be achieved, and the primary fishing will stop as long as it catches the gourmet's tablecloth. After that, just look at how much money is left, and then go fishing until all the money is spent. After all, the reason why Monk fishes by himself is to get these two magical items. After half an hour of fishing, Monk finally caught his long-cherished props, mission must be accomplished, and gourmet's tablecloth. It is worth mentioning that there are several new magical items in this intermediate fishing. The first intermediate item, waterproof spray. This magical item can make the person who sprays it not afraid of seawater for half an hour, and it is an artifact of demon fruit power. Although the effect of this thing can only last for 1 hour, it is incomparable with devil fruit curse elimination potion, but the key is that it can be sprayed and eaten until the level is used up. It can also be used by multiple people, so that a group of capable people who are not afraid of seawater can appear in marine in a short period of time, which is quite valuable. The second and third new Myriad Realms props are also from intermediate fishing. The reason why the two new Myriad Realms props are introduced together is because they almost make Monk have a feeling of time travel, that is, the 5G signal base station and the 5G communication equipment. Shenma 5G. How can 1G props catch such a thing? The style of painting is obviously wrong, right? But after thinking about it, since it's 10,000 realms, it doesn't seem strange to catch this thing. In short, Monk was shocked at the beginning of these two Myriad Realms props, but he still liked them very much later. The only communication in this world is the phone bug, and although the phone bug is somewhat similar to a phone, it cannot be used after exceeding a certain range. If it is really possible to create new communications around the world, it will be convenient for marine. It will even be more interesting. For example, since there are communication devices, will there be computers in the future? Seeking flowers. 0. Thinking of this, Monk felt elated. There is too little entertainment in this world. If games can appear, it can bring more fun to his life. But Monk doesn't plan to use it himself, but sells these two Myriad Realms props to marine. Advertisement. In this way, not only can I prostitute. Wrong. Monk almost wanted to scold himself, he was still not good at business acumen. A one-time buyout can indeed make a lot of money quickly, but where is the monopoly fee? I can be an operator and collect monthly rent. In this way, I can earn money for fishing while lying down. So far, the blocking the door fishing this time has come to an end. Originally Monk planned to spend all the money on fishing, but after thinking about it, the remaining 100 million Baileys are not much, so it is better to wait for his uncle to settle the money from the spiritual time house, and then by magical add up all the money for the items, and then do some extra fishing. So Monk closed the shot and said to Zephyr, Momosugi and Hina, let's go. Let's go home and have a party. Zephyr didn't say anything, but his heart was itchy. After being with Monk for a long time, Zephyr felt that his personality had undergone a huge change. From the original conservative, stereotyped gradually by Monk. Momosugi and Hina did not hide their happiness, looking forward to the party. Monk's room appeared at any door, and Monk took Zephyr and others to leave the door of justice. 0. The door of justice is thus opened. Kizaru let out a yo, looked at the back of Monk and others leaving, and touched his chin. At this time, a deep and ultimate voice sounded. Kizaru, I will send someone to watch Monk's house. If you dare to show up, you will be finished. Kizaru was noncommittal. Marshal, I'm not that kind of person. After speaking, Kizaru had the warship activated and left the naval headquarters port. This guy doesn't use any door. Sengoku also ignored him. Although he often scolded Kizaru, he was very relieved of Kizaru. Anyway, he was also admiral. He just needs to see the results. Sengoku also has important things to do. After meeting with Shichibukai, he has to go to Monk to discuss the purchase of his fishing this time. Magical item. And Crane is responsible for arranging a group of Marines to go in for training. Naval Headquarters, Hospitality Hall. When Sengoku entered, the contest sea had basically arrived. Scanning around, Sengoku said, let's not talk about the polite words, just get straight to the point. Sengoku glanced at Blackbeard, then looked away, then sat down again, and then said, I want you to accept the call and fight against the Whitebeard pirates. Haki and Shang didn't say a word. Maria, Jinbei and Hancock all heard the meaning of Sengoku's words and frowned. Most of the other Shichibukai couldn't help but look shocked. The war between the two major forces is likely to change the entire world. Everyone present was noncommittal. While speaking, Sengoku stepped forward and came to the top position of the conference table. As for Haki and Shang, they didn't show much expression after raising their eyebrows slightly. Moria's eyes widened, she didn't know what to say. Although it is not sure whether Whitebeard will go to war with Marine to save Ace, but Sengoku doesn't need to say that much, just tell Shichibukai and others. Blackbeard showed a grinning grin, and said, haha, thief, Sengoku, just tell me what you want. We're all ears, thief haha. Jinbei's pupils trembled, and he questioned, why? If you start such a big war, don't you Marines know what kind of consequences it will bring? Then he said, I was going to refuse, but now I think about it and changed my mind. In the beginning of the war, if he had the chance, he would directly attack Monk, and if he couldn't find a chance to attack Monk, he would take Whitebeard's shock fruit. I know what you Shichibukai are doing at naval headquarters this time, for my nephew's magical item. Hancock didn't expect it at all, and said with certainty, Marine is going to fight the Whitebeard pirates. Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard burst out laughing. This was a development he wanted to see very much. Advertisement. Chapter 114. Zephyr failed to learn from Monk, and started talking like a lion. Advertisement. Although Hawkeye and Shang didn't show any expressions, their hearts were still full of surprise. Unexpectedly, Marine was going to fight the Whitebeard pirates. The pattern of the world will undergo tremendous changes. While everyone was thinking, Moria couldn't help asking, why are you Marines so sure that the Whitebeard pirates will join the battle? Besides, once Marine starts a war with Whitebeard in New World, the other 4 emperors will probably come, even some other big pirates and powerful forces, then Marine will become the target of public criticism. At this time, Jinbei also said that he didn't want to go out with the Whitebeard pirates. So Jinbei wants to see if he can persuade Marine to give up the deployment of fighting against the Whitebeard pirates. What Moria said is not wrong. Once the war starts in New World, other forces will get the news, and Marine will become the target of public criticism. Although today's Marine's high-end combat power has improved a lot, it is a bit difficult to face multiple strengths at the same time. Today's Sengoku has surpassed Roger in strength and has become the first person in Marine history. It is definitely possible to suppress a 4 emperors fight, but even if you suppress a 4 emperors fight, if there is no huge gap, it is impossible to achieve instant seconds, and the battle will last at least a few days and nights. Back then, when Golden Lion encountered a huge storm and was traumatized, it went to Marineford to make trouble, and both fought with Sengoku and Garp for a long time, until Marineford was half destroyed, and the two sent Golden Lion in to impel down. Therefore, the battle of the strong has never been decided in an instant. Sengoku glanced at Jinbei and said calmly, don't worry about this, the battlefield of 800 will be in Marineford. As soon as the words came out, Moria breathed a sigh of relief. It's the same for everyone else. If it's at home, Marine's fight will be a little more favorable, coupled with Monk's magical item, Marine's chances of victory will be greatly increased, nearly 9% king. The reason why it is not 100% is because as long as it is a battle, there will be changes. The example of the weak overcoming the strong has never been a new thing in this sea for 800 years. Just like when the Roger pirates faced all the flying pirates of the Golden Lion, it was the sudden change of the huge storm that severely damaged the flying pirates of the Golden Lion. Jinbei's face became more gloomy. Sengoku, how are you sure that Whitebeard will definitely come? Because if he doesn't come, the captain under his command will lose another one. We Marine will publicly execute. Firefist, Ace. As soon as it came out at this moment, Jinbei's pupils trembled. Ace. Is Ace actually in Marine's hands? Jinbei and Ace do not know each other, and now they can be regarded as old friends for many years, and he even calls Whitebeard an old picture. Now it's a big problem. Thief, ha 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 ha. Everyone in the room had noncommittal expressions on their faces, except for Blackbeard who burst out laughing. Sengoku, we, the Blackbeard pirates, are happy to help Marine. Whitebeard, the strong man of the old era, it's time to call the curtain down. After finishing speaking, Blackbeard looked at Jinbei again, and said with a sinister smile, Jinbei, Whitebeard and Ace are about to face a crisis, are you in a very bad mood? Thief, ha ha ha, you're the one who calls Whitebeard daddy after all. Blackbeard was in the Whitebeard pirates before, how could he not know that Jinbei and Whitebeard have an intersection? Now he wants to eradicate Jinbei, the uncertain time bomb, so as to avoid unnecessary changes on the battlefield. Everyone present couldn't help looking at Jinbei, including Sengoku. Sengoku couldn't hear any emotion, and said, Jinbei, explain. After almost half an hour passed, the Shichibukai meeting ended, Jinbei was stripped of the title of Shichibukai, and sent to the submarine prison. On Monk's side, he didn't pay much attention to it at all. He began to sort out the harvest this time, and used all that he could only use for himself, and then gave some of the others that were of no use to him, and gave some of them to Zephyr, Momosuke, and Hina, and then planned to sell the rest to Marine. It is worth mentioning that this time Monk not only got Bing Bing fruit but also Kazaru's sparkling fruit. Among the two devil fruits, Monk is most interested in the ability of Bing Bing fruit, because it is a super level fishing, so it is said to be awakened. Zephyr's Logia dark fruit awakens its own special effects, so should the dark ice fruit of Logia also have it. Anyway, Monk is looking forward to it. However, sparkling fruit is produced from mid-level fishing, and it is not. But Monk is still used, after all, it is a waste not to use it. After a period of time, Monk completely digested the harvest this time. Conqueror's Haki once again went a long way to the god level, but did not improve the level. Monk estimated that after reaching the god level, more universal experience points should be needed to improve. Other abilities have also been slightly improved, which has raised Monk's strength to another level. After doing all this, Monk handed over the Myriad Realms item that he was going to trade with Marine to Zephyr, and asked him to be fully responsible for this matter. Monk. Zephyr couldn't laugh or cry. Advertisement. Isn't it good to leave this matter to me? You know mine too, not as slick as Sengoku. Monk touched his nose and said lightly, it's okay. You can make as much money as you can with these magical items. In short, you remember one sentence, the money you earn will be used for the three of you to go fishing, all you get is yours. So if you earn more, you will fish more, if you earn less, you will fish less. As soon as this remark came out, Momosuke and Hina became excited. Zephyr, you must slaughter Sengoku well, Momosuke said seriously. That's right, at least use these magical items to earn 100,000 Baileys. Hina said fiercely. Zephyr was shocked, these magical items earn 100 W Bailey. This time the principal fishing is only 100 W Bailey, right? How is this possible? But Monk just said that all the money earned from these things will be fished for them, and Zephyr has made up his mind secretly, that is, he must get a lot of money. Monk didn't care. The reason why he handed over the magical item to Zephyr for trading was because he found it troublesome. Furthermore, now that Monk's own strength has improved, he also intends to help Zephyr, Momosugi and Hina to improve. Anyway, with the money I get later, I can buy half of the Myriad Realms props for nothing when I go fishing. Don't think about it anymore. Monk took out Mission Must Achieve and Gourmet's tablecloth and said loudly, everyone. The party is on. Monk plans to have a good party first, and as for the experiment on the awakening of Bingbing fruit, we will come back tomorrow. Going to Sabayati Archipelago again tomorrow. And not long after the party of Monk and others had just started, a random door appeared. Yo, looks like I'm not late. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Monk had a question mark on his face. The same goes for everyone else. Momosugi couldn't help but said, Kizaru Admiral, aren't you afraid that the Marshal is really angry this time? It's okay. My observation Haki is fully open, just be careful, don't close any door, or you can come to my marine warship to have a party, after all, the room is too small. Monk's eyes suddenly brightened. He traveled to this world. He hadn't been on a boat much yet, and the number of boat rides in his previous life was only a handful. Suddenly the warship escorting Ace to Impel Down turned into a party venue at sea. Seeing the disappearance of the arbitrary door, Zephyr was the only one left at the scene, and couldn't help but touch his forehead. What a bunch of incomprehensible guys. If Sengoku finds out about this, people like Monk, Momosugi, Hina and Kizaru will all be beaten. Thinking about it, Zephyr couldn't help laughing again. I have to say, during this time with Monk, I really changed a lot. In the past, Zephyr would definitely be annoyed and reprimanded by the behavior of Monk and others. But now his heart is very peaceful, even. Still want to go to the party. Shaking his head, Zephyr quickly left Monk's room with the magical item. Hurry up to trade, and then go to the party. I hope the party is not over by then. The meeting in Marineford and Shichibukai established Marine's determination to go to war with the Whitebeard pirates. The Whitebeard pirates and Red Hair pirates far away in the New World didn't know about it. At this time, the Redhead was contacting Rayleigh with a phone bug, to see if there was any gain from the auction house. Rayleigh on the opposite side smiled and said, Redhead, you are right. In the face of huge value, people will indeed choose to take risks. Recently, the auction house secretly collected a batch of magical items. I will try my best to get all these magical items tomorrow. The Redhead gave an, and said, I'll leave everything to you, Rayleigh. No problem, Rayleigh said confidently, then continued. Although, Shaki told me that the Sabayati archipelago is not too peaceful recently, and many new generation strongmen have arrived. But it's not a big deal to me. If something happens, I'll just take the blame. Hee hee. The Redhead chuckled. Then he thought of something and said, that's right, because among the new generation of strong men, maybe that kid is among them. Oh, the one you said you knew at East Blue. That's right. I really want to meet him. Advertisement. Sabayati Archipelago. Supernovas arrive one after another. Kid, Lackey, Law, Hawkins, Apu, including the Straw Hat Pirates. And what they don't know is that tomorrow's Monk will also come to Sabayati Archipelago to test whether he has special appearance effects. Naval Headquarters, Malindo. After the Shichibukai meeting, Sengoku didn't have time to eat, and planned to go to Monk's room to trade magical items, and at the same time see if that D Kizaru came over. But on the way, I happened to meet Zephyr who was in charge of the transaction. As soon as he heard that Zephyr was in charge of the transaction, Sengoku immediately felt rich. This boy Monk was so smart that he was confused for a moment, and he actually sent Zephyr to trade. Zephyr is very attached to Marine, and he is more upright and kind. Sengoku thinks he can get these magical items for a very small price. Delighted in his heart, Sengoku also forgot about going to Monk's room, and hurriedly dragged Jifa to his calendar office. Hee hee. Sengoku smiled amicably and enthusiastically. Oh, Zephyr, we have known each other for many years. Although we did not enter Marine at the same time, we fought side by side many times. Do you remember when we went to encircle and suppress the old Earl? Along the way, Sengoku understands with emotion, moves with reason, plays the emotional card crazily, feels. After playing the love card, start complaining, and after complaining, talk about ideals. In this way, the two came to the Marshal's mansion, and Sengoku was in a good mood, thinking that he must have got Zephyr. Afterwards, Sengoku sat down and said, Zephyr, at what price do you plan to sell these magical items? I think, almost. Sengoku wanted to say about 1 billion Baileys, which is about the same. This 1 billion Baileys refers to the 800 million Baileys in spiritual time room. 10 billion Baileys. Zephyr said flatly. Sengoku. Did you hear me wrong? Sengoku seriously suspected that he had heard it wrong, so he asked again. Zephyr touched his nose and said firmly, 10 billion Baileys. Sengoku. Co-author I said a lot on the way just now, is it just playing the piano to the cow? Damn it. Zephyr has learned from his nephew. 4.3 I don't know how long it will be. In Marshall's mansion, Sengoku's face was gloomy. In the end, Marine won these magical items at a price of more than 3 billion, not counting the 800 million in the spiritual time room. If you add it up, it will be 3.8 billion pele. Sengoku's heart was about to bleed. You know, Monk spent 8 billion berries for super fishing, and only 2 billion berries for elementary and intermediate fishing. However, there is no other way. Once the price is too low, Zephyr will simply say, then don't trade. Once the price is not suitable, Zephyr will say, then do not trade. This sentence directly left Sengoku speechless. What about Zephyr, who used to be very attached to Marine? What about that righteous Zephyr? Sengoku sighed, warm. At least the magical items purchased are useful, such as fairy beans, universal capsules, memory bread, etc. But if you spend your own money on fishing, you may not be able to get so much. So, Sengoku finally agreed to the deal. Sengoku said unhappily, go back and tell Monk that the Baileys are owed first, and they will be paid back to Marine when he has money. Now Marine has no money. After all, the funding from the world government has not yet arrived. After settling the deal, Sengoku started talking about business. When the two parties traded, Aokiji, Akainu, Crane, and 10 Marines all arrived. Sengoku first asked about Crane's training arrangements and got a satisfactory answer. He glanced around and said, everyone, the day of Ace's execution will remain the same, and the public execution will be held a week later. Tomorrow, I will announce this news to the whole world. Asterisk 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 O. Advertisement. Chapter 115. The world is a sensation. To grab props. The epic battle begins in a week. Advertisement. This meeting Sengoku actually determined the time for the public execution of Ace, which was a week later. After these 3 days and a year of training, Marine will be able to quickly produce a batch of elite Marines, or even the elite of the elite. Then the following 3 days are the time for Marine to fully prepare for the battle, and then meet the Whitebeard pirates. Of course, it is not yet known whether the Whitebeard pirates will join the battle. This depends on the importance of Ace in Whitebeard and the Whitebeard pirates. It doesn't matter even if Whitebeard doesn't fight, as long as Ace's identity is disclosed, his dual identity will bring double benefits to Marine. This time the meeting came to an end again, and the generals present all had condensed faces before they left. After all, once Marine announces the execution of Ace tomorrow, what kind of disturbance will it cause? Time soon came to the second day. Marine announced early in the morning that Ace would be publicly executed a week later. As soon as the news came out, it was like a meteorite smashing into the sea, setting off 1,000 layers of huge waves. Ace. Well, isn't that Whitebeard's second team? That's right. Fire Fist. Ace, a former super rookie who later joined the Whitebeard pirates. I didn't expect Ace to fall into the hands of Marine. But the most unexpected thing is that he will be executed publicly, right? You must know that Roger is the only person who has been publicly executed in the past 10 years. Even the legendary pirate Golden Lion was only beaten into impelled down after he made a big fuss in Marineford. How can Ace he to be publicly executed? Aren't you stupid? The execution must be only on the surface. This is undoubtedly a war with the Whitebeard pirates. War. Will the Whitebeard pirates go to war with Marine? I heard that recently there has been a heaven-defying ability user in Marine, and magical props can bring a great boost to self-confidence. I've heard about it too, but I thought it was all fake before, but now I don't think so. There seems to be some outflows from the black market. 29. Whitebeard is afraid that he won't take part in the battle. After all, he is just a captain under his command. If he dies, he can recruit another person to take over. Who knows? I heard that Whitebeard regards his crew members as his own sons and treats them as family members. Maybe he will really save them. Family. Do pirates have the concept of family? Isn't that too family? Who knows? In short, once Marine and the Whitebeard pirates go to war, the pattern of the new world. It shouldn't be said that the pattern of the world will be rewritten. Although the people of the world say they are shocked, they are still shocked. The big events in the world actually have little to do with them. Unless Marine can really end the age of great exploration, but do people in the world understand how simple it is? Marine not only has to face the 4 emperors, but also countless pirates above the sea, and the world is so big and the sea is so vast that Marine can't take care of everything. Even if the previous newspapers said that Marine has some magical items that have brought a huge improvement to Marine, it is difficult to do it in a short time. Besides, in fact, many people in the world don't really believe in that newspaper. After all, the news in the newspaper will directly shatter their worldview, right? Most people don't think it's real until they've seen it with their own eyes. As the news spread, Marine's announcement soon spread around the world. Sabayadi Archipelago. In the Rip-Off Tavern, Shaw now informed Rayleigh immediately after receiving the announcement. This made Rayleigh, who originally wanted to rush to the auction house, couldn't help raising his eyebrows. He immediately thought of Marine's intention. It seems that Marine is planning to force the Whitebeard pirates to fight. It must be, otherwise Ace will only be imprisoned and impelled down. Shaki said in a deep voice. This is the improvement of Marine's comprehensive combat power with the help of magical items. Are you planning to start a big move? Shaki said what was on his mind. It's highly likely to be true. Rayleigh shook his head and gave a wry smile. Actually, with the appearance of Sengoku's nephew and the appearance of the magical item, I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. Shaki glanced at Rayleigh, and continued, even with Marine's strength before, it would be very difficult for the Whitebeard pirates to rescue Marine. Not to mention the current Marine, if the Whitebeard pirates really go to rescue Ace, it will become history. Quote. Rayleigh went back to the bar, pouring himself a drink. Shaki cast a glance, and said to himself, the best choice for the Whitebeard pirates now is to give up Ace. Rayleigh, why don't you persuade Whitebeard? Rayleigh chuckled. Although I have only met Whitebeard a few times, as an old opponent, I still know him well. If you can't be persuaded, even if he is here, you can't be persuaded. Advertisement. That's all, let them do it, this time Shanks will probably make a move, and that kid has grown up to be very strong now. Rayleigh smiled confidently. Roger did not misunderstand the person back then. Hee hee. Shaki immediately rolled his eyes and said, where's the one with the red nose? The corners of Rayleigh's mouth twitched. That guy is actually pretty good, but he didn't focus on cultivation, he only focused on finding treasures. I think that guy might become 4 emperors in the future, I have a hunch. Shaki. Hee hee. Together. If he can become 4 emperors, then I will be his younger brother. Rayleigh also stopped responding, stood up and said, why don't we bother with this matter, let them make a fuss, who didn't come here like this? It's good if you succeed, and it's the same if you fail. The older you are, the bigger your heart is. Rayleigh's voice left as he left, and he was about to go to the auction house, and the magical items that flowed out were auctioned off. Although it is said that the auction will start in the afternoon, it is not bad to go there early, don't wait for Marine to come over, that would be bad. And when Rayleigh went to the auction house, some residents in the port of Sabayati archipelago looked ugly. My god, why are the celestial dragons here again? Keep your voice down, if you are heard, it will be over. New World, Wanokuni Ghost Island. In the lab, Linlin, how are the guys at Vince Moke analyzing it? Kaido said as he walked into the laboratory. Ha 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 ha, Mon. The ant's face was full of joy. The effect of Xiaoshondo has been improved, and the universal capsule has also been reproduced successfully, which can accommodate half a medium-sized pirate ship. The ant talked about the engraved magical item, which made Kaido very satisfied. Then he tried to take a small stamina pill that was engraved. After pondering for a while, Kaido couldn't help frowning. Why didn't it work? At this time, Judge came over and said to Kaido, after a while, I will feel that the effect of the engraved physical strength pill is a bit slow, and there is another disadvantage that some of them have no effect. Kaido couldn't help frowning. How about the re-engraving of any door? Judge suddenly looked embarrassed. Well, this arbitrary door is a bit difficult to handle. Kaido couldn't help being condescending, cast a glance at Judge from the corner of the eye, and then said coldly, at any rate, you are also by Vegapunk's side, is that how your skills are? Judge's face darkened suddenly, but he dared not speak out, because the one in front of him was the 4 emperors. That's all. Kaido waved his hand, then laughed and said, I'll show you who I brought. 27. Ant and Judge couldn't help but look back, and saw the two walking out of the shadows. One walked with steps that no relatives recognized, while the other was floating, and looked very timid. After seeing these two people, the ant couldn't help raising her eyebrows, heavenly yaksha. On the other hand, Judge squinted his eyes, Guy sarcasm. Guy, you will experiment here from now on. Kaido said to Guy. Although Kaido didn't do anything else, Guy was still full of fear and nodded repeatedly, understood, Master Kaido. After Kaido brought Brother Ming and Guy to scatter, Kaido continued, you two try to engrave any gate within a week. We're going to be in a big show next. Ant and Judge couldn't help being curious, big drama. Kaido, can you stop being a secret? The ant said displeased. Without waiting for Kaido to answer, Brother Ming came out behind him, with a characteristic smile on his face, he said, Marine is going to publicly execute the second captain under Whitebeard. Fire Fist Ace. And this may lead to a war between the Whitebeard pirates and Marine. Kaido laughed out loud, with fierceness and excitement on his face, as well as deep tyranny, that's right. As long as the battle between Marine and the Whitebeard pirates reaches a fever pitch, we can intervene, not only to hit our opponent hard, but also to snatch many of Marine's magical items. This is our chance, those magical items that are difficult to reproduce, or we don't have, we can have them soon. Soon, several people laughed loudly in the laboratory. Advertisement. On the other side of New World, the two emperors of the sea, Whitebeard and Redhead, couldn't laugh out loud. Redhead went to meet the Whitebeard pirates as soon as she learned of Ace's public execution. Aboard the Mobity, although there were many people on the deck of the ship, there was silence. Redhead, and the rest of the Whitebeard pirates all looked at Whitebeard. Whitebeard sat high in the huge armchair, silent, with no expression of joy or anger. And everyone understands that the more this is the case, the more fluctuating Whitebeard's heart is. Not long after, the Redhead broke the silence, things are worse than I expected. The Redhead originally thought that Ace would lose to Blackbeard at most, but he didn't expect that now it fell into the hands of Marine, and the trouble was even bigger. The two sides fell into silence again, and the red hair kept staring at Whitebeard. After a while, he continued to speak. Whitebeard, once the Whitebeard pirates and Marine go to war, it will cause countless sacrifices and deaths. I know you care about Ace, but what I want to say is, it's better to give up Ace. I can't bear it, after all, he is still Luffy's big brother, but now Marine is too strong with the help of magical items. Around, Marco, Joes and others immediately became dissatisfied, and all of them were angry and red-haired. Ace is our family. Now that my family is in trouble, how can I let my family take care of me? The redhead ignored the dissatisfaction of the leader of the Whitebeard pirate team around him, and he just stared at Whitebeard. It only takes Whitebeard 183 decisions. Whitebeard also looked back at the redhead, and then he laughed. Kuchuk chug. 1 inch. My sons are right. When family members are in trouble, they naturally need to go to the rescue. There was a smile on Whitebeard's face unconsciously. Shen Sheng said. Red-haired brat, how about going to rescue Ace with me? The red hair is silent, he just wants to avoid a large-scale war, and now he is going to be dragged in. But if he doesn't join the battle, I'm afraid the current Marine, Whitebeard pirates can't compete. Whitebeard seemed to have seen the red-haired mind clearly, and couldn't help but said in a deep voice, Red-haired brat, do you know what the other 10 identities of that Straw Hat Kid's big brother in Ace are? Because Ace often shows off his younger brother to the crew, Whitebeard also knows Luffy, but he doesn't pay much attention to his name. The redhead raised an eyebrow. At the beginning, Ace once looked for him, and then Ace told the red-haired his full name, which also contained D. At that moment, the red hair looked at the person with D in the name, and then saw his face with a sense of familiarity. At that time, he had guessed. Who cluck 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 cluck. No wonder he felt so familiar back then, it turned out to be the descendant of Captain Roger. After all, sleeping is also a kind of fun. After waking up, Monk plans to go to Sabayati Archipelago to see if he has any special appearance effects. At this moment, Monk is still sound asleep. Last night, I went to Kizaru's warship to party until late at night, and fell asleep the whole time when I came back. So far, a huge change has taken place on the top this time. The red-haired pupil suddenly contracted, with an expression of disbelief. Whitebeard didn't care about the redhead's reaction, he continued to laugh and said, Shanks. The appearance of Monk's Myriad Worlds props has completely rewritten Ding Shang. This battle may not be more heroic than the one in the Valley of Gods. Although it is said that the improvement of strength can keep Monk from sleeping for several days and nights, but since he chooses to make a bad life, sleep is essential. Whitebeard burst out laughing, his voice raised, that's right. And just when a huge storm was brewing in the world, Kizaru finally arrived at Impel Down. But then he got closer to Ace being a relative of Luffy or something. Don't let him relax for too long, his body is stiff. This time Whitebeard stopped calling the redhead a brat, by the way pull that old guy Rayleigh out. Ace is the blood of your captain. At this moment, the redhead's mood fluctuated. Now Whitebeard mentions, reminding the redhead, could it be that? Advertisement. Chapter 116 Reaching the 6th floor of the submarine prison. Magellan show props. Advertisement. Although there was a party on Kizaru's warship last night, it did not affect the sailing of the warship. In addition, as admiral, Kizaru has no problem fighting for 3 days and 3 nights. In the original book, the two admirals, Akainu and Aokiji, once fought for the position of marshal once in 2 years. In the end, Akainu was left with scars, and Aokiji not only had scars on his body, but also lost a leg. Impel Down, before the gates of justice. Kizaru's phone bug rang the prison guard's voice. Kizaru Admiral, please wait a moment, we will open the door of justice for you. Hey, Kizaru said habitually, and then smiled. There is no need to open the door of justice, I can just go in by myself. You came in by yourself. The guard in charge of the gate of justice was a little surprised. Isn't that good? How to say it is also admiral, directly using the ability to cross the gate of justice is not only unseemly, but also has a bad impact on Impel Down. However, Kizaru doesn't care. Apart from his hobby of fishing with pay, his other hobby is pretend. As for whether it is reasonable or not, and whether it will be too much of a waste of magical items, Kizaru doesn't care about these. Soon Ace was brought to the deck, Kizaru directly took out any door, and then opened the door to the port of Impel Down. At this time in the port, Magellan, Hannibal and other jailers are waiting in the port. Although it is said that Kizaru has no achievements, he is still an admiral, and he should have the respect he deserves. However, just when Magellan and the others were bored, they suddenly saw a door suddenly appearing in front of them. This can't help but make Magellan, Hannibal and the other jailers startled, with question marks on their foreheads. What is this? Magellan asked Hannibal with a confused face. Hannibal was also taken aback, I guess it's here to take your life, and then I can become a regular. After finishing speaking, Hannibal looked shocked, covered his mouth and said, you actually spoke your mind. I have to say that there are many people in this world whose behavior is funny. Before Magellan could reprimand Hannibal, everyone saw Kizaru on the opposite side of the door, and Ace escorted by the soldiers behind him. Kizaru Admiral, Magellan, Hannibal, and the guards all exclaimed. Soon everyone realized that this is the legendary magical item. Impel Down, Marine and CP can be regarded as the 3 major institutions with different world governments. The magical item Marine itself is not enough, so naturally it cannot be given to Impel Down for the time being. That's why they were so shocked if they had heard of it but hadn't seen it. I stayed in Impel Down for too long, so I lost touch with the world. Magellan couldn't calm down for a long time. Watching Kizaru and others coming from the other side of any door, it was as if they came to themselves and others from another time and space. Hannibal's mouth was almost dislocated. In the next second, his eyes directly turned into star eyes, isn't this too handsome? Hannibal couldn't suppress his excitement and quickly stepped forward, looking left and right, and kept admiring in his mouth. The other jailers couldn't help but go forward to look at the arbitrary door carefully. Even Magellan, the warden, didn't care about his image and demeanor. After all, Magellan himself didn't have the demeanor of a high-ranking person. Kizaru Admiral, is this a magical item? Hannibal asked. Kizaru chuckled. Yo, that's right. I remember it's called any door, right? It's so cool to be able to travel anywhere in the world. If you have this, wouldn't you be able to travel around the world? Kazaru chuckled. That's not okay. You can only go to the place you have been to. If you haven't been there, you can't use any door to get there. However, Kazaru said that this limitation could not affect the excitement of Magellan and others at all. If we have this door, we can go wherever we want every day, and we still need to stay in Impel Down every day. It's totally okay to go out for a stroll and come back later. The warden, you have to help me get this magical item. Yes, our future happiness depends on you. Advertisement. Warden, if you can get us any door, I guarantee that within 1 year, no. I won't covet your position as warden within 2 years. Hannibal almost knelt down. It's amazing, this portal, and it's the most coveted magic item for the jailers in their Impel Down. It can be regarded as an isolated island in this vast sea. It is a cage for prisoners, but it is also a cage for jailers like them. Even if they are on vacation, it is difficult for them to leave Impel Down. It can be said that until retirement, they can only see the two scenery of the stone wall and the sea most of the time. But now the emergence of any door, let the jailers see the light, and the days to come may not need to be boring. Just seeing the first magical item, Hannibal and other jailers had a sudden fondness for Monk. I have to have no good feelings, and their happiness may depend on Monk in the future. Kazaru didn't say much. If he was asked to take out any door and give it to the jailer of Impel Down, he definitely wouldn't. Yo, Warden Magellan, let's not waste time now, knowing that Ace is extremely important. Escort him to the dungeon on the 6th floor before discussing other matters. Magellan nodded. Although he sometimes felt very unreliable, in fact Magellan was never sloppy in business matters, and he did not hesitate to attack the enemy. If it is said that Magellan and Kazaru switched positions, I am afraid that they will have more achievements than Kazaru. It's a pity that because of the side effects of devil fruit, Magellan is either going to the toilet every day, or on the way to the toilet. Maiwa talked too much nonsense, scolded Hannibal and the jailer who were still around the door, and led Kazaru into the submarine prison. Those who can enter the submarine prison are all vicious people. It can be said that everyone has a life in their hands. The prisoners held on the 6th floor are even more terrifying. Sengoku once said, any prisoner on the 6th floor of the submarine prison who mixes into a country may cause the destruction of that country. The legendary pirate Golden Lion, of course this guy has already escaped, and one of Roger's right-hand men, Bullet, was able to be as famous as the Whitebeard, Golden Lion and other big pirate groups by himself, the Red Earl. All the thunderous big pirates are in this prison. Soon Kazaru took Ace to the 6th floor of the submarine prison. The atmosphere on the previous few floors was completely different. The previous prisoners were trying to survive all the time, while the 6th floor, full of endless tyranny and madness. It can be said that most of the evil, tyranny, madness and uncleanness imprisoned in Impel Down come from here. After hearing the movement from the gate, the prisoners couldn't help being interested and went to the doctor. For these prisoners, there is not much fun every day. If you want something new, you can only moles the jailer occasionally. That's right, in the prisons on other floors, the jailers abused the prisoners, and on this floor, the prisoners molested the jailers. For these jailers, they are also full of fear for the prisoners on the 6th floor, even if they are locked with seastone, it may not be safe. When Golden Lion was locked up, he cut off his leg abruptly and escaped from Impel Down. This also became the first person in history to escape from Impel Down. I don't know if they are here to deliver food or to inspect. Whether he is delivering food or inspecting, come. Let's gamble to see who can scare the jailers who come the most. Come, I'll join too. The prisoners had fun in bed at the opening. However, when they saw Magellan and Kazaru walking in from the entrance of the 6th floor, they couldn't help being stunned and surprised. Hey, I remember that is Marine Admiral. That's right, it's Kazaru, one of Marine's 3 admirals. I really didn't expect that Marine's highest combat power would come in person. Who is this escorting? Oh, that person seems to be Fire Fist, Ace, the 2nd captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. 2nd Division Captain. Isn't the 2nd Division Captain that samurai named Odin? That guy died 18 years ago. When did you come in? Haha, Odin is dead, and now the new 2nd team has been captured by Marine. Is there a curse for the 2nd captain of the Whitebeard Pirates? Ha 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 ha. The inmates in the prison speak unscrupulously and constantly use taunts for fun. Ace, Hannibal, even Kazaru and Magellan, the roster guys that everyone is mocking. This made Ace, Hannibal and others look very unhappy. Kazaru cast a glance at the people around him, and couldn't help saying, oh. I really don't like this place. Magellan, the warden, has long been used to it, and said in a low voice, Kazaru Admiral, ignore them and let them waste their tongues. Advertisement. The more you pay attention to these people, the more excited they become. If you ignore their words, they will shut up soon. However, at this moment, in the shadow of a prison, Bullet stepped out of the shadow and said with a low smile, you trash, shouldn't you bet on who can anger Kazaru now? It's fun to P*****s off Admiral. Kazaru looked at Bullet, pouted and said, yo. You are really annoying, Bullet. Our Marine's defeated opponent dares to be so arrogant. Bullet couldn't help but sneer. In order to arrest me, you Marine launched a buster call to the island where I was, and piled up the corpses of Marine soldiers to finally catch me. Paying such a huge price to take me down, does it mean to be hidden? Bullet's pupils flickered, burst into fierce light, and said with a sinister expression, just you Marines, how can you arrest me one-on-one? It claims to be the representative of Marine's strongest external combat power, but even Conquerors doesn't know how to rely on Devil Fruit's ability, but Devil Fruit's ability has not yet been developed to ultimate. The more Bullet spoke, the more excited he became, and he couldn't help holding onto the cell door with both hands. Many bigwigs around also appeared one after another. Those who usually shout the most are not these strong men. After all, strong men have the unruly nature of strong men, and they don't bother to provoke those little guys. But now the person who came was Admiral from Marine, so naturally everyone was interested. The Red Earl who used to observation Haki ceiling also came to the prison door. A strong man joins the ranks, constantly belittling Kizaru and Marine. Magellan looked annoyed in front and said angrily, "Shut up, all of you." While yelling, a purple liquid appeared on Magellan's body. The liquid looked extremely thick. When it touched the ground made an overwhelmed, sizzling sound, and smoke rose at the same time. Magellan, you are the same. If you don't rely on your Devil Fruit ability, do you think you can become the Warden? Bullet continued to mock. Magellan's expression also became fierce, and he stopped answering. The thick purple liquid around his body began to turn into a dragon, and he planned to use the poisonous dragon to teach Bullet a lesson. But at this moment, Kizaru said, "Hey, Warden, you don't need to take action." Magellan couldn't help but pause when he was about to attack, and couldn't help but look at Kizaru. I saw Kizaru took out a palm-sized capsule, and under the puzzled eyes of everyone, after pressing the button, with a bang, an extra sword handle appeared in his hand. In the cell, Kizaru's operation couldn't help but stun the prisoners present. Bullet narrowed his eyes. The Red Earl looked surprised. Lockdoll didn't have any interest in all this at first, but he couldn't help but walk out of the shadows after seeing that Kizaru had just arrived at the operation. Marine's new technology. Yes. Inexplicable. Then he pointed to Magellan and said, "It was the Warden who said it first, he was fired and I was recommended." Meanwhile, Magellan and Hannibal were excited again. In the prison, a group of prisoners looked at each other, feeling baffled. This sword hilt is it the legendary sword that can make people become the world's #1 swordsman? Magellan, Hannibal and the guards were all excited. According to the description, the comparison should be Universal Capsule and Dianguang Pill. Shouldn't it be Vegapunk's new technology? At the same time, they still looked puzzled. By the way, what is Kizaru doing with a sword handle? A small thing the size of a palm can really hold things. It's amazing. Universal Capsule, Lightning Pill, what is that? The prison began to make noise, amazed by the scene they saw just now. Anyway, these guys can't escape. Is this also a magical item? 11 inches 1. However, they soon realized that Hannibal said with horror on his face, "This is a secret and cannot be revealed." Kizaru raised his hand to interrupt them both. "These things don't matter." Advertisement. Chapter 117. The old-time powerhouse is confused. Garp defeats the #1 swordsman with a knife. Advertisement. Prisoners at the scene were confused when they heard that, lightning pills, and universal capsules. What are these? Hey, the universal capsule is referring to the capsule-like thing that Kizaru took out just now. It should be. I think that thing really looks like a capsule. It's very possible. What did Magellan say just now? Can this thing be loaded into a marine battleship? Really? Impossible. The prisoners present all stared wide-eyed. To be honest, this thing can be loaded into a warship. Are the current marine warships so small? Are you stupid? How can miniatures also need to carry people? Where can miniatures go? That's right. I have to say that every time Monk complains that the IQ of people in this world is not too high, which is actually true. Sometimes it can only be said that this world is a little cute because of Oda's bad taste. It was a bit far away, and everyone quickly returned to the topic. The prisoners did not believe that this thing called universal capsule in Kizaru's hands could be loaded into a warship. The cells think they are not stupid. Even some people who have been imprisoned in this submarine prison for a long time do not think that the outside world has developed such a technology. Even those prisoners who have been imprisoned for many years also do not believe them. Derailed to such a great extent from the world. Even if the real marine relies on Vegapunk's mind and the rapid development of technology, it is really a storage technology, and it is impossible to store such a huge item. Warship. What is that concept? Wasn't Kizaru just now? A sword hilt came out, and it wasn't a huge item at all. Beside Kizaru, Magellan, Hannibal and others kept yelling at the prisoners who questioned, telling them not to keep shouting. Ace behind him also had, "Do not know," written on his face. In fact, he didn't quite believe Kizaru's words. After all, the universal capsule in front of him was no more than the size of a palm. But he had experienced Monk's magical item before, the stamina pill, which was indeed the result of an instant improvement after several years of hard work. Shondo also allowed him to stand up again when the oil was exhausted and the lamp was dry, still in full bloom. If Blackbeard hadn't targeted Luffy and Ace had to stop him, he could have gotten out unscathed. So this makes 083 Ace feel that the universal capsule in Kizaru's hand is likely to be able to be loaded into a giant battleship. And at this moment, Kizaru stopped talking nonsense, and after a yo, he directly pressed the button of the universal capsule, and a huge white mist appeared. With the disappearance of the white mist, a huge fort appeared in the aisle of the prison under the eyes of everyone. The prisoners who were still mocking suddenly stopped talking, and all of them were petrified on the spot, and their pupils trembled. This. Giant battery. After the prisoners on the scene regained their strength, a roaring sound suddenly erupted from the scene. The audience was horrified. The giant fort, a palm-sized gadget actually made a giant fort. Although the giant turret is not as big as a warship, it is not important to create a heavy turret is enough to prove the heaven-defying storage capacity of the energy capsule in Kizaru's hands. Vegapunk, well, that's the only one. Otherwise, how can anyone else in this world be able to make such a miraculous technology? With the ability to mount a giant turret, the Marine's external combat capabilities have been improved by at least several levels, which is terrifying. A dodge. If you meet Marine now, you will be covered by shells. Quote. Although it is said that the prisoners in the prison are all vicious, but facing the power of the giant fort head-on, few can bear it. Not everyone in the prison is strong at the Four Emperors level. And it was the real powerful man who said he was shocked, but he didn't exclaim or lose his composure. Bullet, who first provoked Kizaru, remained silent, his eyes became darker. Unexpectedly, Marine now has such technology. On the Red Earl's side, he was calm from the beginning, and then the corners of his mouth couldn't help but smile. After many years, I did not expect that the technology outside is so advanced today. This thing called Universal Capsule is really suitable for me. The Red Earl felt that this Universal Capsule was undoubtedly the best match for a pirate like him. Anything can be put inside, and he doesn't need to hide the stolen treasures or other things somewhere in the future, as long as he just carries them all with him. Advertisement. After I go out, I will recover and find the devil fruit that can restore youth, and then I will get this item called the Universal Capsule from Marine. In the presence, every strong man whose strength has been reduced to a strong one is noncommittal, and they have plans in their hearts. After showing off the Universal Capsule, Kizaru was still a little unsatisfied, picked up the hilt in his hand, pouted and said, Yo. Bullet, didn't you say that our Marine will only rely on devil fruit abilities? And the Conquerors can't be awakened yet. Come, let me play with you and let you see how powerful Marine is today. With that, Kizaru told Magellan to release Bullet. This operation directly stunned the prisoners present. Is Kizaru crazy? Or does he really have such confidence now? After hearing Kizaru's words, Magellan was also taken aback. Kizaru Admiral, you can't do it. It's not that we don't believe in your strength, but that all the pirates are cunning and ruthless. If something happens, then even he and Kizaru will be punished heavily, if the accident affects the stability of the entire Impel down. Then neither their warden nor admiral can afford this responsibility. Hey, it's okay, as long as you don't take off the handcuffs of Seastone. I just want him to experience my sword skills. As Kizaru said, he waved the hilt of his sword. Because it is a sword hilt, it is said that the magical item of Dianguang has the most characteristics, and it can be recognized immediately by people. 4 weeks ago, the prisoners had never read the newspaper specially distributed by Big Mom, so they were full of doubts about the hilt in Kizaru's hand. What does Kizaru mean to fight Bullet with that hilt? Show him how to use a sword. Magellan just told us that once you hold it, you can become the world's #1 swordsman. The #1 swordsman in the world. Are you kidding me? Only relying on this knife without a blade. I'm not too clear about the details, but have you seen the display of that capsule just now? It's really hard to say. Could it be the Shadowless sword? A famous sword. Even if it's a famous sword, if you don't have a solid foundation in swordsmanship, you are still far away from the world's #1 swordsman. Amidst the voices of everyone's discussion, Bullet was released by Magellan. Of course the Seastone gloves on his body were still on. Although the strong man will lose the ability to use devil fruit and Haki after being restrained by Seastone, his body still has a certain amount of strength. Otherwise, Kaido would be basically cold after being chased by Marine for the first time, and he would not be able to continue to die at all. Bullet was released, and he walked out with a low smile, looking at Kizaru and said in a deep voice, What? Holding a sword with a handle without a blade, show me what you call the world's #1 swordsman. Is this a good excuse for the follow-up to be too embarrassing and early? CJCG. All the pirates around couldn't help laughing and booing constantly. For pirates, as long as they have fun, other things are up to him. Besides, what good is a sword hilt without a blade? In the prison, the Red Earl, the evil king, all these powerful people are watching the show. Can't help but also have jokes in their eyes. The #1 swordsman in the world. Even with a famous sword in his hand, it is difficult to do this, let alone a sword handle that is not even a semi-finished product in Kizaru's hands. However, when everyone was mocking, a figure stepped out from the shadows. At this moment, the footsteps were slow, and it was obvious that he was seriously injured. After walking away from the shadow, everyone saw clearly who this person was. Formerly Shichibukai Jinbei. In yesterday's Shichibukai meeting, Blackbeard revealed that he was in constant contact with Whitebeard, plus Jinbei refused to help Marine against the Whitebeard pirates, thus being suppressed by Sengoku. Sent to the submarine prison. Today's Sengoku is extremely powerful, and Jinbei was seriously injured in less than 10 rounds. Renren fruit Big Buddha form plus shock fruit. This combination is perfect. And seriously injured Jinbei was imprisoned in the submarine prison and waited until now to wake up. Some prisoners who have been imprisoned for a long time and do not know Jinbei have also used other prisoners to get it. Jinbei was originally 7 warlords of the sea. A bit embarrassed, Jinbei said, the knife in Kizaru's hand is not a normal knife. It can imbue the holder with profound sword skills. If the profound sword skills are combined with powerful strength, it can make a person's sword skills reach the top of the world. Garp used this lightning pill yesterday to defeat the world's #1 swordsman, making this lightning pill truly #1 in the world. Advertisement. Jinbei's words exploded in the prisoner's ears like thunderbolts. Haki is a recent riser, who maybe a lot of strong people don't know very well, but since he can become the world's #1 swordsman, his swordsmanship must reach the pinnacle. In short, Haki is actually not too important in the eyes of many big shots. The important thing is Garp. This marine hero has been famous since the old days. It can be said that many people present here will enter the submarine prison because of him. And this Garp, who made a name for himself on the sea with his double fists and was nicknamed Iron Fist, now tells us that he defeated the world's #1 swordsman with a knife. Bullet's brow couldn't help but frown. He had often fought Garp when he was on Roger's boat. That guy fights with fists, with knives. Don't be kidding. The great swordsman of today's era is made of mud, right? Bullet said coldly. Or will he be defeated by Garp with a knife? No. Jinbei shook his head. It's not that the eagle eye is too weak, but the knife technique of this electric light pill is too strong. The 6th floor of the submarine prison fell into silence, everyone's hearts were in shock, and their eyes were locked on the hilt of the sword without the blade in Kizaru's hand. No matter how you look at it, they are all semi-finished products. Is it really so outrageous? Yo, Kizaru pouted and looked at Jinbei. I never thought that you would be escorted here so soon. Behind them, Magellan, Hannibal and others looked at each other. They were escorted directly from naval headquarters with any door. How is it the same as yours? There is no need for any door, and it is fine to come here by boat from thousands of miles away. The key is to come to the door of the Gate of Justice, and use any door. 2. Outrageous. Kizaru ignored these things. A pirate is indeed a pirate, you will never change your nature. But it doesn't matter, it's okay to reveal it, anyway, you guys can't get out. As Kizaru said, the sword in his hand injected strength, and suddenly the blade of Dianguang appeared. The blade appeared. It turns out that this knife has a blade. How did you do it? Asterisk 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 asterisk. As this breaking a curse that has been around for years. Kizaru has such a terrible attack with a random swing. Bullet didn't care about it at first, but after Jinbei said that, the expression on his face became serious. Bullet is extremely aggrieved. If it weren't for this seastone bracelet, he would need it like this. Hateful. And this knife is too sharp, isn't it? Dark red thunder also appeared on the knife. And Bullet, he snarled. At first he was thinking about trying to dodge, but now he just wants to escape. The audience was shocked. The prisoners cried out in surprise. Then, that's the Dewey look. In a blink of an eye, Bullet slammed sideways to dodge, the saber air passed by him, but he still shot blood from his body. The surrounding prisoners were also shocked. Kizaru pouted and didn't talk nonsense, and waved the lightning pill in his hand at will, at the same time his eyes shot dark red. Thunder came out following the saber energy, rushing towards Bullet. Marine Admiral actually has Conqueror's Haki. If you get hit in the front, you will die. This time, Bullet's face was extremely ugly, and at the same time he was extremely stunned. Advertisement. Chapter 118. The prisoners were shocked. Is the outside world so crazy now? Advertisement. Bullet dodged Kizaru's knife sideways, but the knife energy passed by his side, still causing blood to spurt out from all over his body. In an instant, Bullet's body felt severe pain. Since he was restrained by the seastone, the pain almost made Bullet faint. Under everyone's shocked eyes, Bullet fell to the ground, coughing up blood. The audience was silent, and everyone watched this scene silently, with violent mood swings. Bullet's expression was painful, seastone made his body laugh, and made his endurance drop. However, no matter how it falls, the foundation is still there, otherwise, Kaido would not be immune to any punishment. Now it is clear that Bullet has avoided the sword energy, but he was still severely injured, which is enough to prove the horror of Kizaru's sword technique. Bullet fell to the ground and was shocked to ultimate in his heart. Is this the terrible knife technique that this knife imbued Kizaru with? Although he didn't use his full strength and didn't show the posture of the world's #1 swordsman, everyone present believed it. Otherwise, Bullet, who completely escaped the sword energy, would not have suffered such severe trauma. He was once the right-hand man of the Roger pirates, a man who was as famous as Rayleigh when he was young, and now he is in his prime, even if he is imprisoned. Entering Impel down, the growth of strength is slow, or even no growth, but the foundation is there. Yo, Kizaru looked at Bullet lying on the ground. He sneered and said, how is my knife skill? I haven't used a single bit of my devil fruit ability. Bullet on the ground gritted his teeth and wanted to curse. Your knife skills. Are you kidding me? Shit with your saber skills, the most powerful one is obviously the saber in your hand. However, Bullet, who was restrained by Seastone, was originally virtual, and now his body was severely injured. When he got excited, he coughed up blood from his hands. Hey, don't be so excited Bullet, if you die here, I will be in trouble. Kizaru turned around and asked Magellan to put Bullet back into prison. As long as he died in prison, it had nothing to do with him. Magellan was still in a trance. It was the first time he saw Admiral use a knife so big. It is said that as long as you hold this knife, you can have powerful sword skills. Doesn't it mean that if you have such a knife, you can also become the world's #1 swordsman? Thinking about it, I feel inexplicably excited. After all, I am a little tired of using the poisonous fruit every day. I have to say that the magical item that Sengoku's nephew fished out really refreshed his worldview, and it was really like the newspapers said it was a blast. Recovering from the shock, Magellan hastily asked Hannibal to send Bullet to jail. The current Bullet was severely wounded by Kizaru's knife and could not pose any threat to Hannibal at all. Hannibal was a little cursing. Magellan dared to command him, the future warden. But even though I complained, Hannibal did it. After sending Bullet to prison, Kizaru didn't stay any longer and continued to send Ace to his prison. After the Bullet was hit hard just now, the prisoners present were much better, they stopped clamoring and were quiet. After all, if he shouted again, he would anger Kizaru again, and if Kizaru used that knife again, all the prisoners present would have to confess here. They weren't bullets, they wouldn't be able to live today with injuries like bullets, and even if bullets were able to dodge the sword attack, most of them might not be able to dodge it. Oh, sure enough, after a lesson, this place has become less annoying. Kizaru said with a bit of a mean expression. In fact, those real bosses are not afraid, but thinking, why is Marine so different today? With the frequent emergence of various high technologies, what is the outside world like now? Someone asked. After all everyone knows, asked Kizaru, how could he possibly say that? However, what everyone doesn't know is that if they ask, according to Kizaru's character who likes to pretend, he will really continue to reveal it. Kizaru settled Ace quickly, and then left with Magellan and others. During this period, Magellan has been asking Kizaru about magical items. After learning that there is a magical item that can cure the side effects of devil fruit, Magellan is already a magical object. Crazy to the extreme. Kizaru Admiral, can you introduce me to Monk? I want a magical item that can remove the side effects of devil fruit. If there is this magical item, doesn't it mean that he won't need to stay in the toilet every day in the future? If so, Magellan would really like to kneel down to Monk. After Kizaru and others left the 6th floor of the submarine prison, violent discussions erupted on the scene. The discussion was undoubtedly about magical items. And the one who can get the most news is undoubtedly the former Shichibukai, Jinbei, who was sent in yesterday. #+# Old Shaw. That is, K. Lakadar said in a low voice. Jinbei, what is the magic item that Kizaru just mentioned? Those were all Vegapunk inventions. Advertisement. Lock Doll was defeated by Luffy and then sent to Impel Down, and this credit goes to Smoker. So it hasn't been too long since I came in, and I still have a certain understanding of the external situation. All around, the eyes of every prisoner were focused on Jinbei. Some people urged him to speak quickly, while some people kept asking. In short, no one has a better temper. As for those bigwigs, they are all waiting patiently for Ping's answer. No, Jinbei shook his head, not a Vegapunk invention. Jinbei's answer was a bit surprising, and everyone couldn't help talking about it. Not Vegapunk. Who would have the technology then? Jinbei, don't be so secretive, tell me what's going on. Bullet said in a hoarse voice. He forced his body that was still bleeding to get up, and his face was covered with warm spots. If he wasn't restrained by sea-stone handcuffs, Kizaru could have seriously injured him. Bullet feels that he can play to Kizaru with one person now. But it is undeniable that the knife in Kizaru's hand is indeed extremely sharp. Don't worry, I didn't keep it up anymore. Now I have nothing to do with Marine, and I'm even a prisoner. Jinbei naturally wouldn't hide anything. The magical items that Kizaru just brought out are all from Sengoku's nephew. He has the ability to fish for fruit, and he can fish out miraculous and magical items from the sea. Fishing fruit ability. The prisoners around were all dumbfounded. Hey, have you heard of this devil fruit ability? No, never heard of it. Me too, is there such a devil fruit? Bullet also frowned, although he said that he didn't finish the last journey with Roger, but he had experienced countless adventures, and he had never heard of fishing devil fruit. I didn't know there was such a devil fruit until Sengoku's nephew appeared. Jinbei said quietly. In short, it is a very powerful devil fruit. Its power is not due to its combat power, but the magical item caught by fishing. Just now you have seen two of them. One is called Universal Capsule, which can accommodate a warship, and the other knife without a blade is called Dianguang. As long as the user holds it, he can grasp the advanced knife skills at a glance. That is to say, the world's #1 swordsman is worthless now. As long as anyone has this knife in his hand, he can become the world's #1 swordsman. All the people present took a breath of cold air again and again. The ability to fish devil fruit is too exaggerated. At this moment, the Red Earl walked out of the shadows, without any surprise on his face, but asked in a deep voice, is there any more? Jinbei nodded, and there are many more. You also saw Kizaru use Conqueror's Haki just now, right? The Red Earl narrowed his eyes, indeed. Marine Admiral actually broke the curse of many years, which surprised me. At this time, Lao Shaw, that is, K. Lakdar, laughed and said, the most surprising thing is that among the 3 admirals, it was Kizaru who awakened Conquerors. Know that this guy is the least likely to awaken Conqueror's Haki. It can be seen that Kizaru, a fishing master, has a good reputation. No, not just Kizaru, but now the entire Marine executives have awakened Conquerors. Ask for flowers. What? The audience exclaimed. All Marine high-level awakening Conquerors. How is this going? No, it's impossible. Conqueror's Haki can't be awakened just by rushing, there will only be 1 out of a million people. Marine high-level awakening Conqueror's Haki, actually. It's not surprising, but all of them, this is a bit of a fantasy. Advertisement. At this time, Ace also spoke. His comment is correct. All the senior management of Marine has now awakened Conqueror's Haki, and the reason for this is because of the magical item. As for the name, I don't know. It's called Super Holy Water. As long as you drink it, you can awaken Conqueror's Haki, no matter who it is. As soon as this sentence came out, even some big shots couldn't calm down. Whoever can awaken the Conquerors. Are you kidding me? Bullet looked angry. Before, he was very proud of his awakening of Conqueror's Haki, and he once felt that he was the chosen one. There are so many strong people, but not everyone can awaken Conqueror's Haki. But now, someone actually told him that things like Conqueror's Haki no longer require aptitude, but anyone can awaken it. Does that mean that Conqueror's Haki is not worth much at all? The certificate of a strong man is now reduced to a white minister. 0. The Red Earl's eyes kept flickering, and the hearts of some other strong men from the old era were also shaken. This perception of nothingness is broken. Isn't the outside world a situation where Conqueror's Haki walks everywhere? Such a situation made them unimaginable. Wait until you meet a Marine Vice Admiral, release the Conqueror's Haki as soon as you meet face to face, even a Marine soldier may release a Conqueror's Haki for you at any time. It's kind of exasperating to think about it that way. Not the usual annoyance. Not only is Conqueror's Haki all over the place, I'm afraid to keep Sengoku's nephew fishing, but even Devil Fruit's abilities are all over the place. Now there are 3 shock fruits in the outside world. The audience was silent, each and every prisoner had ultimate written all over their faces. Stunned. 3 shock fruits. Are you kidding? The ability of Devil Fruit can't be repeated at all. Once the Devil Fruit is eaten first, the rest will become ordinary fruits. How can there be new same Devil Fruit abilities? Jinbei let out a breath slowly. I said it was the Devil Fruit caught by Sengoku's nephew with his fishing ability. And the Devil Fruit he fished has a characteristic, that is, it does not have the same side effects as ordinary Devil Fruit. That means not afraid of sea water and sea stone. On the day I was sent in, I saw Garp use the Devil Fruit ability to run wildly on the sea. The expressions of the prisoners present could no longer be described in astonishment. They found a lot of bugs. Didn't Garp hate Devil Fruit's ability the most? This guy eats Devil Fruit now too. No, the former Shichibukai just said that the Devil Fruit with fishing ability does not have any side effects, so eating Devil Fruit in this way is only good, and there is no harm. Why not eat? Change them to eat too. However, the shock has only just begun, and Jinbei continues to tell about the follow-up magical items. For example, open black lens bracket any door close black lens bracket, open black lens bracket send beam close black lens bracket open black lens bracket rope from the source of age close black lens bracket. The narration made the exclaimed voices of the prisoners present uninterrupted. It was too shocking. Is the outside world this crazy right now? No, it should be said that the ability of the new Devil Fruit that appeared is a bit exaggerated. Now the outside world has changed a lot. The world's #1 swordsman and Conqueror's Haki have both turned into Chinese cabbage. Death can also be resurrected. Then what's the name of Sengoku's nephew? Everyone present was extremely curious about Sengoku's nephew. Jinbei said in a low voice, Monk. The most important person in Marine today. Work, Advertisement. Chapter 119 recommend Monk to become the 4th Admiral. Advertisement. Now Monk is said to be the most important person in Marine, and it is not wrong at all. If Marine wants to develop, and if he wants to fight against the 4 sea emperors by himself, he must have Monk. Requires Monk's magical item. In the submarine prison, the exclamation continued. After all, the magical items that Jinbei mentioned just now shattered the worldview of the prisoners present one by one. They seriously suspected that it was not a few years or more than a dozen years that they and others were imprisoned, but 100 years had passed. But even if he is really imprisoned for 100 years, the development of the outside world cannot be so fast. I have to say, the magical items that Monk fished out are really outrageous. Among the prisoners, while the strong were shocked, there was also a trace of longing. They never despaired of being imprisoned in Impel Down. In their eyes, they and others would definitely have a chance to get out. After the shock of the Red Earl, he became even more excited. Unexpectedly, there is such a newcomer in Marine now. And the mystical items caught by fishing will undoubtedly be of great benefit to him. Universal Capsule can let him put things easily by himself, and Sen Bean can make him recover when he is injured, although he doesn't think he will hurt the Red Earl's incomparable confidence in his own strength. But having said that, if he could have Shondo when he was besieged by a group of generals led by Kong, then he probably wouldn't be here now. However, what the Red Earl cares about the most is the Time Source Rope of Age, which is a magical tool that can fundamentally restore his youth. The Red Earl had already thought about regaining his youth before, and that was to look for the 17-0 Devil Fruit in the form of a phantom beast, a vampire. However, although this Devil Fruit can restore youth after absorbing other people's blood, it is not fundamental. And now, hearing what the former Shichibukai said about the Root Rope of Age, this is what he dreams of. Fantastic item, Monk. The corner of the Red Earl's mouth was full, and his eyes were full of greed. Other magical items are also very good, such as the lightning pill that Kizaru used just now, and the random Devil Fruit that allows people to get the second Devil Fruit ability. No matter what kind of magical item it has a huge effect. On the other hand, Bullet is also a famous minister who has deeply imprinted Monk in his heart. Mystical items, he also wants to get. Random Devil Fruit. Once he can randomly get the ability of Shock Fruit, then his strength will completely surpass Roger and become the king of the new generation. Monk. This name is now known in Impel Down. Every prisoner here is sorry to go out now and go to naval headquarters to take Monk into their hands. Of course, this is just a thought. After all, if it were that simple, Marine would not be able to stand on this sea for more than 800 years. In short, the prisoners on the 6th floor of today's submarine prison have never been so eager to get out for a moment. Naval headquarters, inside Monk's room. It was already noon at this time, and he slowly woke up. However, when he woke up, Monk sneezed, which surprised him. With my current strength, I shouldn't catch a cold so easily. Could it be that someone is thinking about me? Maybe it was my uncle who was scolding me, maybe it was the 4 emperors who were thinking, but Monk didn't care. Glancing around, he couldn't help but throw Momosegi's foot away with some disgust. As a general in Marine, he can be regarded as a good card, but the sleeping position is so unsightly, it is simply. As for why Momosegi and Hina slept in the same bed with Monk, it was mainly because they played too late last night, and when they came back, Momosegi and Hina didn't bother to make a bed together, so they told Monk to squeeze together. According to what the two of them said, the soldiers don't stick to trifles. Get up, get up. Monk woke the two of them. Monk found that even if he stays up late or sleeps for a short time, he is still full of energy. This is the benefit of strength improvement. But even if he doesn't sleep for a few days and nights now, Monk still insists on sleeping every day, because sleeping is fun. Ignoring Momosegi and Hina who were hesitating to get up, Monk went to the toilet to wash up. After eating, go to Sabayati Archipelago and play there. Test whether the awakening of my Bingbing fruit will have special effects. As for why there is no longer naval headquarters test, Monk does not want Sengoku to know that he is capable, otherwise, Sengoku will definitely let himself handle whatever happens in the future. For Monk, who just wants to show bad, this is undoubtedly adding trouble to himself. Advertisement. After all, Monk is the kind of person who doesn't want to make a shot himself, and because he doesn't want to make a shot, even most of the universal experience points are added to Conqueror's Haki. Now that Monk's Conqueror's Haki has surpassed the red hair, he still insists on adding all points to Conqueror's Haki. And at this moment, Zephyr walked out from any door. He couldn't help but sneered and said, Monk, I knew you just woke up right now. So come here now. Monk was washing up and greeted Zephyr vaguely. Zephyr didn't mind either, and said to the business, that's right, Monk. Are you going to Sabayati Archipelago later? That's right, Monk replied, spitting water out of his mouth. I guess there is no way to go with you. Zephyr said. Sengoku informed me in the morning that I would come to a meeting in the afternoon about the deployment of the next battle. That's right. Zephyr thought of something, and said to Momosegi and Hina, the marshal also informed me to inform you. He said he couldn't reach you in the morning, and he was sleeping on Monk's bed. Momosegi and Hina both go in with their left ears and come out with stones. Can't you? Soldiers don't care about trifles. But Momosegi and the two are still strange, why did the marshal ask them? Now their task is to protect Monk, and the strategic deployment has nothing to do with them. I don't know, but you all have to follow along. Then wait for Monk to go to Sabayati Archipelago, who will protect him? Momosegi said. That's right, if Hina and Momosegi go, who will protect Monk? Hina agreed. Zephyr was speechless, don't you two have a count in your heart? Today's Monk needs you to protect other people's Conqueror's Haki Vice Admiral. No, even Vice Admiral can't resist Monk's Conqueror's Haki, okay. You two protect Monk. If you are really in danger, probably Monk will protect you. But it's not a question of whether to protect or not. It's just that no one is by Monk's side. It's really a bit bad. What if Monk is in danger? If someone is by your side, at least there is someone to take care of you. Zephyr was silent for a while, then said in a deep voice, why don't you go later, Monk, after our meeting is over? Monk shook his head, no need. You can go to the meeting with peace of mind, I can go by myself. But, Zephyr wanted to say something else. Monk smiled and said, it's okay. You also know that I have a high-level universal capsule. If I am really in danger, I will release any door in an instant to leave. You all know me too. Generally, I'm too lazy to fight. I'm the one who hates trouble the most. Everyone nodded involuntarily. What Monk said was not wrong at all, no one hated trouble more than him. Zephyr also stopped persuading him, because he knew it would be useless to continue persuading him. Monk has a lot of magical items. Although he doesn't know how many there are, it is definitely not less than what Marine has today. Now he faces a 4 emperors alone, and he will not lose. Furthermore, if you want to truly transform into a strong man, you also need Monk to practice himself. Soon, the likes of Monk, Momosegi, and Hina are eating lunch, all served from the gourmet tablecloth. Meanwhile, inside the naval headquarters meeting room, Sengoku sat at the top of the conference table. There were only a few people present, and most of the generals were not there yet. At this moment, a random door appears, and Kizaru walks out of it. Hey, Marshal, am I early? Why don't I come back later? If you dare to leave, I dare to let you have an image without Admiral in front of everyone. Kizaru didn't intend to leave after hearing this. I can still vividly remember the lesson I got from Sengoku that night. Now that Sengoku is strong, it's hard to bear his punch. Kizaru sat down where he usually sits, and then asked, Marshal, what are you going to do for this meeting? For the strategy meeting, shouldn't it be finalized after the group of people in the spiritual time room come out? Advertisement. Can't you drive first? Sengoku glanced at Kizaru. After constricting his eyes, Sengoku paused and said, but the main content of this meeting is that I plan to recommend Monk to become Marine's 4th Admiral. Kizaru couldn't help being stunned for a while, and then looked at Sengoku in surprise. The other generals who had arrived all around were also stunned, looking at Sengoku who was headed up in surprise. Fourth Admiral. For more than 800 years, there have been only 3 admiral positions in the Marine, this is to break the tradition. Everyone did not expect that Sengoku's meeting this time was mainly to elect Monk to become the 4th Admiral. If he finally succeeded in becoming the 4th Admiral, then Monk would break many records. For example, the first 4th Admiral in history, the youngest Admiral in history, etc. Just when Marine was preparing for the meeting, the auction house in Sabayati Archipelago not far away had already started auctioning things. Some of the items at the beginning were fringe items, collectibles from major sellers. In one corner of the seat, Rayleigh yawned. I have no interest in what is currently being auctioned on stage. By the way, in the past, I was always making products in the background, hehe. I didn't think I was sitting here at the auction today. Rayleigh entertained himself. Then he glanced around the venue, there were quite a lot of incredible people inside. Like the redhead kid who looks like Shanks, and the guy with the hood, and the guy with the straw hat hanging behind him. This is probably the brat that the red hair mentioned, and I finally saw it. But Rayleigh is not in a hurry, let's observe first. And at this moment, Rayleigh's eyes flashed suddenly, and he saw several people who came in afterward. Their clothes are so conspicuous that people can see who they are at a glance. Rayleigh's no brows, celestial dragons. He never thought that celestial dragons would appear here. Now it's a bit troublesome, you must know that celestial dragons are a group of rich and powerful masters, I am afraid that the Bailey he got from the red hair and whitebeard is not enough to consume here. Rayleigh's glasses began to glow faintly, and it seemed that he would have to change his strategy later. The entry of celestial dragons brought a lot of noise to the people present. Soon, the host on the stage suddenly shouted, the auction items that will start next are all heavyweight items. You must have read the newspapers a few days ago, right? Marshal Marine's nephew has an unprecedented devil fruit, a fishing fruit, and the magical items fished out with this ability are even more comparable to the creations of gods. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I have to say that there is a reason for the presence of the host of the auction house, he is too eloquent. The white bear stopped talking, and it seemed very reasonable. But it's out. On the other side of the seat, Usopp stared wide-eyed, and then said to Chopper, Chopper, that is a magical item that can make you useless. Just one can stop you from eating 5.6 meals for 10 days, just one can bring people back to life, just one can cure your old diseases for many years, just one. Kid raised his eyebrows, and then couldn't help but smile. Actually, I'm more interested in random devil fruit. If I can get the strongest creature or the ability of shock fruit. This ordinary bean in front of me is a legendary magical item. In the position, Kid squinted his eyes. Why does it feel like a fake? It doesn't look any different from ordinary mung beans. 11. Chopper was about to cry. After years of hard training in medicine, I was defeated by a bean. I feel like 50 Baileys are flattering me. The crew members on the side nodded repeatedly. Ahead, a humanoid creature that looked like a white bear said, Captain, this is the legendary magical item. With the celestial dragons here, do you think we can take it? Luo leaned his hands back on the chair, hid his face under the brim of his hat, and said with a sneer, didn't you see who came in just now? After the host talked for about 10 minutes, he said, Bosses, the next auction item is Shondo. The host continued to introduce Shondo, and everyone's eyes lit up. Should we buy it? In this way, if we have an accident, we can save our lives. And Kira beside him couldn't help but said, it may not be fake. There were descriptions of various magical items in the newspaper before. It said above that fairy beans are indeed similar to ordinary beans. Advertisement. Chapter 120 The Natural Disaster of Sabayati Archipelago. Advertisement. Chopper is very sad that his current medical skills are not as useful as a bean, and he feels that he has been deeply hit. At this time, Robin comforted. Chopper, you are much more important to us than fairy beans, and the fairy beans you have are not. Robin. Chopper raised his hand, made a hug, and walked towards Robin. Sure enough, Robin loves me, and it is very important to know that I am on board. However, what Robin said next hit Chopper again, and she said, at least you are cuter and can be our group favorite. Chopper is depressed and feels like crying. Is his magnificent ship doctor just reduced to a group pet now? At this time, the Straw Hat Pirates have not received the news of Ace's public execution, so the atmosphere is no different from usual. As for why I still don't know about the news of Ace's public execution, one reason is that Kami disappeared in the morning, so I have been looking for Kami, until now I know that Kami was arrested and brought to the auction house. Everyone rushed here in a hurry, and there was no leisure time to pay attention to the news. While the other partners didn't pay attention, it was impossible for Luffy himself to pay attention. As the host announced the start of the auction, the starting price was 20 million Bailey. After all, the elementary level fairy bean fishing is only 200 W Bailey, and the price has increased by 10 times. Many people at the scene were very interested in the magical items, and they bid one after another, and the price soared all the way, reaching 100 million Baileys directly. Such a price surge made the host excited. And just when Rayleigh was going to raise the price, 150 million Bailey won the fairy beans. At this time, the celestial dragons standing in front of them stood up and raised the plaque in their hands calmly and said, 500 million Baileys. The audience was shocked. I didn't expect that celestial dragons would directly increase the price to such a high level, which made most people flinch. Although I was very unwilling, Everyone present also understood one thing, that is, even if they continue to raise the price, celestial dragons will also raise the price at 29, and they cannot compare with celestial dragons at all. Rayleigh also knew this, so he simply gave up his plan to bid. He knew that all the following magical items would fall into Celestial Dragon's pocket, so he simply gave them all to Celestial Dragons, but waited until all the magical items were in Celestial Dragon's hands before taking them all in one go. As the auction progressed, as expected by everyone present, most of the magical items present basically fell into the hands of Celestial Dragons. This time, because of the existence of magical items, Celestial Dragons has no interest in Kami, which makes Luffy and others successfully auction Kami. When the auction is over, Rayleigh is ready to do it. However, at this moment, Rayleigh discovered that something was wrong. How did the surrounding air become so cold? Many people have also discovered this, the temperature drops too fast. It's not winter now, the temperature drop is a bit abnormal. Kid, Luo, these people's complexions gradually became difficult to look at. The temperature has dropped. Could it be that the admiral with the Bingbing fruit in Marine Admiral is near here? Gradually, frost began to appear on the surrounding chairs, making everyone present frown. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates was equally astonished. This caused many people in the auction venue to rush out, and immediately after, everyone's expression was full of shock. I saw that the sky was full of snowflakes, and the snowflakes kept falling. Wrong. Among the Straw Hat group, Robin looked at the falling snowflakes, and said, "These are all frost." After the frost touched the ground, it immediately turned into ice crystals. Seeing this, Luffy's eyes were full of stars and said, "It's so cool. So cool." As he said that, he ran out immediately, wanting to pick up these ice cubes to play with. But the next second, just as Luffy went out, his whole body was stiff and his nose was streaming. "It's so cold, so cold. Luffy, come back, idiot," Sanji yelled. However, Luffy couldn't come back, his whole body became stiff, and ice appeared on the surface of his body. Seeing that their captain is about to turn into an ice sculpture, the Straw Hats and their party are flustered and hasty on their faces. However, Zoro, Sanji wants to go out and rescue Luffy, but he can't do it at all. Advertisement. This is a huge trouble. The Straw Hats and the others looked hopeless. If this continues, Luffy will die. Without the captain, what would the group of them do? All around, Kid, Kira and others were all watching the show. Ouch, could it be that the Straw Hat Kid will exit in such a way? Luo, on the other hand, took a more comprehensive view. The frost that suddenly appeared was able to instantly freeze the Straw Hat's billionaire pirate. Is it really the admiral? Or is it a natural disaster? Luo hoped that it was the latter. After all, if it was the former, then these people would be here to explain it today. This ability is really scary. And just when Luffy was about to turn into an ice sculpture, a figure in white suddenly jumped out of the crowd at an extremely fast speed. Before everyone around could react, the figure had already sent Luffy to the Straw Hat Pirates. Ignoring the reactions of the Straw Hat Pirates and others, he said, "Help him thaw quickly, or it will be quite bad." After speaking, Rayleigh didn't care anymore. After all, he wasn't a doctor and there was nothing he could do. The final result of Luffy could only be determined by fate. Rayleigh turned his head to look at the snow-white sky again, his expression became dignified. Who is it again this time? He can be sure that this is Devil Fruit's ability, because he used Conqueror's Haki when he just went out to rescue Luffy, which made the ice crystal not affect him. Conqueror's Haki can remove the effect of Devil Fruit's ability, so it can be seen that this is an ability used by someone. But who came from such a terrifying ability with such a large scope? At this moment, even Rayleigh, the top powerhouse of the old era, felt development in his heart. Before, he surpassed the Conqueror's Haki of Red Taro, and became the person with the strongest Conqueror's Haki today, and now he has such a terrifying Devil Fruit ability. If the two incidents were done by the same person, Rayleigh didn't dare to think about it any further, because such a strong man once had a similar one, that is, Rocks. Both Devil Fruit ability and Conqueror's Haki are top man. Could it be? Rayleigh's pupils trembled violently. But Devil Fruit of Rocks doesn't have such abilities, who the hell? On the Sabayati archipelago, not only the auction house, but the entire island is filled with white ons, and frost is constantly falling, forming blocks of ice crystals on the ground. Everyone on the island watched in horror at what happened suddenly, and no one was affected at all, because when the surrounding temperature plummeted, most people hid indoors one after another. As the Sabayati archipelago hit by a natural disaster. Several weird things have happened recently. I was drinking that day, and fell asleep in the tavern for some reason while drinking. Do you know what is the most bizarre thing? The whole tavern fell asleep that night. I remember, before, I also fell asleep for some reason. It's too bizarre, and now it's another natural disaster. How do you feel that Sabayati archipelago is not suitable for living? It's an eventful year, a week later there is a possibility of a big war, and now the Sabayati archipelago is a natural disaster. All over the island of Sabayati, many supernovas are watching what happened outside, and everyone agrees that this is a sudden natural disaster. Only a strong man like Rayleigh can see that this is not a natural disaster at all. Sabayati archipelago, where Monk and others often appeared before. At this moment, there is only Monk standing there alone, his body is covered with a pair of armor, but unlike the mighty awakened form of Zephydark Fruit, Monk's awakened form of Ice Fruit is more weird, with a ferocious snowfield appearance the feeling of the beast. This made Monk a little bit unacceptable, our Zephydark Fruit awakened handsome. What's more, although his current devil fruit has a special effect after awakening, this special effect is too unsatisfactory. Let the snow and ice fly all over the sky, completely covering him up, okay. How can others see that it's me? Alas, Monk looked up to the sky and sighed, looking very desolate and lonely in the wind and snow. If Rayleigh finds out that the person who created this disaster-like scene is actually dissatisfied with the ability he unleashed, Monk will definitely be sprayed to death. Advertisement. Unsatisfied. The mud horse can instantly kill Luffy who has been turned into a pirate, okay. Just ask the guy who was known as the worst era, who dares to walk directly into this, sky snow. But in fact, there is not much ending, anyway, just continue fishing. Everything he got now is from Monk whoring for nothing, even if he is not satisfied with it, Monk will not feel too much distress. And shortly after Monk tested his ice fruit awakening in the Sabayati archipelago, Naval Headquarters Marineford. Meeting room. It's been a long time since the meeting started. For Sengoku to arrange Monk to become the 4th Admiral, Zephyr, Momoshiki and Hina all expressed their rejection. Because the three of them knew Monk best, he would definitely not take this position. Monk doesn't care about his own status at all, he just needs to live freely and happily. Giving him the 4th Admiral, in Monk's view, is a bondage to him, and he is definitely not willing. Sengoku is helpless, in fact, he just wants to let his nephew have a little more belonging to Marine, so that Marine can get more promotion. But thinking that according to Monk's personality, he was really too hasty to do so. That's all, it's not bad now, I can only slowly influence him in 373's follow-up, and see if I can change him. In fact, Sengoku wants Monk to be the 4th Admiral not only so that he can have a little belonging, but also wants to entrust Marine to Monk in the future. As long as Monk, who has the ability to fish for fruit, serves as the Marine Marshal, he will definitely be able to lead Marine to go higher and further. But now Zephyr, Momoshiki and Hina, who know Monk best, all objected, so Sengoku had no choice but to give up. After all, Monk doesn't want to do it himself, and it's useless to force him to have a title. And at this moment, a Marine soldier hurried in to report. Marshal, something strange happened in Sabayati archipelago. Huh, Sengoku couldn't help raising an eyebrow. Strange event. What event? 4 weeks and 3 days Admiral couldn't help but also looked at the soldier, waiting for his answer. But Zephyr, Momoshiki, Hina and the others were terrified in their hearts and couldn't help but look at each other. What happened to Sabayati archipelago? By the way, didn't Monk say that he was going to Sabayati archipelago to test his ability in the afternoon? The soldiers quickly said. The entire island of Sabayati archipelago is covered with frost, which can freeze people into ice as soon as they touch it. Maybe it was a strange natural disaster, one of the generals said. Obviously Monk did it. I didn't do this. Immediately, Zephyr, Momoshiki and Hina were extremely curious, what kind of strange event happened? Besides, his ability is directly frozen, how can he get snow all over the sky? Everyone averted their eyes one after another. However, Zephyr, Momoshiki, Hina and others present looked at each other, how could this be a natural disaster? The others also nodded, thinking that this should be a natural disaster. The soldiers talked about what happened in the Sabayati archipelago, which made the Marine generals present all look at Aokiji. This guy Monk's strength has improved a lot. This made Aokiji baffled. Everyone, I'm just sitting here and doing well. Asterisk. Oh. Even if it is over 1 billion pirates, it can't resist. Could it be that guy made it? And they now know what kind of ability Monk went to Sabayati archipelago to test. The co-author is Aokiji's ice fruit ability. Judging by the current posture, he should still be awakened, right? In this world, weird natural disasters are very common, especially in New World. Advertisement. Chapter 121 Monk. It's time to go fishing in Summit War. Advertisement. The events that Monk caused in the Sabayati archipelago are known only to himself, and the 3 people who are closest to him, Zephyr, Momoshiki and Hina. Others thought it was a weird natural disaster that happened in the Sabayati archipelago. After all, things like natural disasters are often seen in this world. The sea is a very strange and unpredictable place. After Monk came back, Pengfa and others told him about the meeting in the afternoon. Then Zephyr and others told Monk that they refused for Monk. For this, Monk is very satisfied. Admiral is a bondage to Monk, he has no interest in Admiral at all. He just wants to be as free as he is now, to play happily every day. This is the life Monk wants. In fact, Monk thinks there is another important reason for his uncle to arrange the 4th Admiral position for him, and that is to appease the world government. The current self is actually not a Marine, more like Vegapunk who is employed by Marine, but the difference is that his uncle is the Marine Marshal. Based on this, the relationship between Monk and Marine is still very strong. One of the reasons why Sengoku is so eager to arrange himself to become the 4th Admiral is as he said, he wants to have a sense of belonging to Marine, and the other is to appease the world government as he thinks. Because once first become a Marine Admiral, I have to accept direct orders from the world government, so that I won't be imprisoned by the world government in the Holy Land Mariajoy. Monk was not wrong at all. The reason why Sengoku called the afternoon meeting in such a hurry to make Monk the 4th Admiral was precisely because of this. After this incident is over, Zonkei has no other excuses to continue to prevaricate the 5 elders. Monk has to face the 5 elders. Later, Momoshiki said another thing, that after Monk left Sabayati archipelago, the celestial dragons of Sabayati archipelago were attacked. Kizaru Admiral went to deal with the matter and dealt with the old powerhouse, Pluton, Rayleigh. Monk raised his eyebrows. Is this the Sabayati Archipelago incident? Supernova landed on the island. This incident is too famous. In the previous life, there was still such a meme circulating. Kizaru. Yo, I'm going to kick yo. I'm going to kick it. It's time to kick. Kicked. Yo, Rayleigh. Monk in the previous life was laughed to death by this stock. He quickly looked at Momosuke, and smiled. Is it because Kizaru didn't catch any supernova? Then the bear took the straw hats away. Momosuke was also taken aback when she heard that. She widened her beautiful eyes and said, Monk, how do you know? Were you there at the time? Hina asked curiously. Monk rubbed his nose and didn't answer. How do I know? I know a lot. 2 years later, the new 4 emperors and other events, of course. Monk thinks that there will be huge changes in the future. Simply Monk no longer thinks that the most important thing is to be happy. Seeing that Monk didn't intend to answer, everyone wisely didn't continue to ask. But they are still very puzzled. That is, it feels like Monk knows everything. The previous Ace identity is also the same. Monk actually knew the identity of Ace a long time ago, which is very intriguing. However, all kinds of mysterious things happened to Monk, and everyone felt that it was not so strange, because Monk is very mysterious. Soon, the topic of everyone was on the war a few days later. For this war, everyone is full of hope. With the help of Monk's magical item, Marine's comprehensive strength has been greatly improved. So there is nothing to fear in the face of the Whitebeard pirates. The eventful day soon came to an end, and in the next few days, the sea was extremely calm. Marine, and the 4 emperors of New World seemed to have disappeared from this sea. However, everyone understands one thing, that is, the calmer it is, the more violent the coming storm will be. Advertisement. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. After 3 days of training in the spiritual time room, Marine gave birth to a group of elites. 3 days have passed in the outside world, but a full year and a half has passed in the inside. After this group of soldiers came out, each of them felt that the outside world had not been seen for a long time, and they also felt that the pressure from the outside world was much less for them. Everyone felt that they were as light as a swallow. I feel like I'm walking, and I can fly directly as I walk. Ha 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 ha, I'm jumping now, nearly 10 meters. Spiritual time room really gave me a huge improvement. Isn't this normal? When you're inside, you feel stressed even if you don't do anything. Yeah, the first time was extremely difficult. I felt like I was going to be depressed anytime. Anyway, we're over it now, aren't we? Ha ha ha, yes, and now we are the most elite group in Marine. Ha ha ha, I have to say that this is all thanks to Monk's magical blessing. That's right, having his magic item can bring us a huge boost. Gives a huge boost to our Marine. Quote. After this group of Marine elites came out of the spiritual time room, Monk's name and thanks to Monk resounded in the square of Marineford. The sound was so loud that it could be heard throughout Marineford, including Monk's house. Monk, Zephyr, Momosuke and Hina stood on the roof, listening to Monk's name resounding below. Zephyr, Taoyu and Hina were quite emotional. The eyes of the veteran Zephyr were full of envy. What a rare sight, Monk. Now you have a huge influence among Marine soldiers, no less than the 3 contemporary admirals. It is estimated that the influence of any admiral is huge. Momosuke added. That's right. Hina thinks so too. Hina echoed. Although Akainu Admiral is the strongest admiral in Marine, his behavior gives Marine soldiers more awe, and his influence is not very great. Even some extreme decisions make many Marine soldiers resent him. Yeah, Momosuke nodded in agreement. Zephyr on the side couldn't help curling his lips. You really dare to say, now you dare to say that Admiral is wrong. However, what the two said is reasonable. In fact, sometimes Zephyr is not satisfied with Akainu's extreme actions. And Kizaru Admiral's attitude is too ambiguous, with too few contributions and achievements, so he doesn't actually have a strong sense of presence in Admiral. The influence is naturally not too strong. As for Aokiji Admiral. At this time, Zephyr said, he is similar, he doesn't pursue fame and fortune, he just does everything he can, and he doesn't try his best at all. Zephyr pointed out Aokiji's shortcomings. Zephyr knows Aokiji quite well. At the beginning, Akainu, Huang Yuan and Aokiji were all taught under his command. He knows all 3 of them well, and Aokiji is with him. One of the best relationships. Hearing the shocking voice in his ears, Zephyr couldn't help but continued. This kind of battle, it is estimated that there was a scene hall of this scale when the cassette became Marine Rongshong. 17. But you must know that the reason why Garp was able to become a Marine hero was because he defeated Rox, and in order to cover up Roger's achievements, the world government attributed all the credit to Garp, which is why Garp has the influence it has today. Hee hee. Zephyr chuckled lightly. Not to mention, Monk, if you are willing to become Marine's 4th admiral, everyone in Marine must be very willing to see it. Monk chuckled. Life is short, and having fun in time is the most important thing. But saying so, Monk was still moved by the scene in front of him. The admiration of most people, if replaced by anyone, will be happy from the bottom of my heart. Meanwhile, naval headquarters on the open-air high terrace. Sengoku looked at Crane and said calmly, Little Crane, do you think this will be useful? Crane smiled faintly. Of course. As long as you are a person, you will want to be admired and admired by others, not to mention that Xiao Kei is still a young man with a vigorous blood. If you want Monk to have a sense of belonging to Marine, you only need to make Marine soldiers admire him, respect him, and let Marine soldiers trust him. The soldiers are willing to pay for Monk, and I believe Monk will also be willing to pay for the soldiers and think about the soldiers. Advertisement. Won't Xiaokei have a sense of belonging to Marine by then? Sengoku fell silent and stopped talking. As Monk is his nephew, he naturally hopes to train Monk to be the next Marine commander, so that Marine will prosper, so that the whole world will no longer have disasters, and the whole world can be peaceful. This is what Sengoku wants Monk to do. With the end of today, there are only 3 days left before the upcoming big battle. The world government also gave a huge amount of funds to Marine, and Sengoku immediately went to find Monk to fish that day. There are no new Myriad Realms props in this fishing, basically they have appeared before, no. The only thing that can be regarded as a new prop is the golden any door, drawn from the special grade, which can also be said to be any door, close black lens bracket, the upgraded version of it. In short, this arbitrary door has one of the biggest highlights, that is, there are no usage restrictions. In other words, this golden arbitrary door can be used without restriction. Monk was ecstatic now, and immediately took this golden arbitrary door into his pocket, so he didn't need any other arbitrary door reserves at all, and just gave it to Zephyr, Momosugi, Hina and others. After the fishing was over, Monk was surprised by the largest amount of fishing this time, that is, the system once again ushered in an upgrade, unlocking the god-level fishing. Sitting in the easy chair, Monk was very pleased with the improvement of the system, and he finally got it. Without any other nonsense, Monk immediately looked at the system, and saw that the god-level bait changed from the original gray color to a bright color that can be purchased. Monk quickly looked at the price, and it was exactly as he expected. The purchase of god-level bait for god-level fishing requires 10 billion Baileys. Hiss. It's really increased by 10 times. 10 billion Baileys. Even though Monk was ready, he still gasped. One fishing is directly the bounty of 2 Whitebeards. I'm afraid that Marine will not fish more than 20 times with all his belongings now. No, I can't afford fishing, I can't afford fishing. Monk feels that he can't afford fishing at all, and Marine can't afford fishing either. If he wants to fish, the whole world probably only the world government can fish. The great fishing here does not mean fishing once or twice, but long-term fishing. 10 times is 100 billion Pele. If the middleman wants to make the difference, that is 200 billion Baileys. I'm afraid that if this happens a few times, even the world government will go bankrupt. Just when Monk thought about fishing, he suddenly heard the system sound in his mind. Congratulations to host for unlocking the god-level fishing. After 3 days, you will get double fishing rewards. Li Wanghao. Double reward fishing location after 3 days, Marineford Crescent Bay Square. Double fishing rewards. Why do you ask this? Tukao is Tukao. For white whoring, no. For the benefits given by the system, Monk must get it. The next step is to find a way to raise money. Is it because I just feel that I can't afford fishing, and I don't want to go fishing at the god level, so the system gives me incentives? After digesting the harvest of fishing this time, go to the Golden Emperor to help with the grave. As for Marine, the summit war will be ushered in a few days later, so there is no time to care about this. Monk had an inexplicable feeling in his heart, and he quickly asked Momosugi, who was eating and drinking, by the way, how many days will be the reason for Momosugi Ace's public execution? Monk thinks there is a great possibility. By the way, didn't you say that you will not participate in this big battle? Hina also ate with relish, and asked strangely after hearing this. It's okay. Today's Monk is very confident in his own strength, and he hasn't digested the harvest this time. And the rewards were obtained 3 days later, and I still reserve time for myself to collect money. Okay. This abacus made a snap sound. Hearing this, Monk immediately got up from the easy chair. This is the biggest benefit the system has given him since he activated the system. Monk gave a wry smile, and bumped right into it. Momosugi is eating a gourmet tablecloth and responds, 3 days later, what's up? But Meng doesn't want to give up the benefits this time, which is equivalent to a 50% discount. Monk is a little dumbfounded about his own system, that is, a system, what do you need so much money for? Advertisement. Chapter 122 Assemble the Strong from the Old Era. Advertisement. Monk likes whoring for nothing, and now that the system offers a benefit, he naturally wants to fight for it. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste? As for fishing in Summit War at that time, Monk is actually a little helpless, as the king of bad. But there is no way, it just so happens that the date and place match up. If you don't want to give up the benefits this time, you can only go fishing during the war. Now Monk is quite confident in his strength. No longer thinking about it, Monk began to digest the harvest this time. Although he did not harvest any new devil fruit this time, he caught Hawkeye's knife skills. After using it, with the first half of the universal experience points, Monk raised Hawkeye's knife skills to the god level. In this way, Monk has 2 god level abilities, god level Conquerors and god level Hawkeye's knife skills. As for devil fruit, except for the awakening of Bingbing fruit, the ability of other devil fruits is basically about 50%, shock fruit is a little higher at about 80%, string fruit and fortress fruit are the lowest of. Too much devil fruit makes Monk a bit disgusted, mainly because it is useless. Like fortress fruit and string fruit, Monk generally doesn't use them, because in the face of powerful fruit abilities, these fruits are very tasteless. The rest of the universal experience points were all added to the Conqueror's Haki this time, and combined with the special grade Motai, it was finally improved. Conqueror's Haki has been upgraded from God to Peerless. As for being unparalleled after the God level, Monk doesn't bother to complain, as long as he knows that he is even better than the God level. In other words, before my god-level conquerors could immobilize Momosuke, the leader of Vice Admiral, can the current Wushwang level immobilize Admiral? Monk is a bit eager to try, but unfortunately, Marine is fully preparing for the battle, and admirals are not here, which makes Monk look at Jifa who is playing sand. At this time, Zepha on the other side of the arbitrary door felt Monk's gaze, and couldn't help but fight a cold war, trying to be a little scary. Zepha felt that now that Monk was staring at him, it was like Shinigami's sickle was on his neck. How strong is this guy now? Is it stronger than the rocks back then? 260 absolute peak Conqueror's Haki, coupled with the awakening of Bing Bing fruit, reached the top of the pyramid on both roads. It is really possible. I'm afraid Sengoku, the strongest player in marine history, is not as strong as Monk. What would Sengoku think if he found out that his nephew is so p*********** D now? Zepha had a lot of thoughts, and finally decided not to think about it anymore, and asked, why? Monk, what do you think I am doing? Monk shook his head. He decided not to give Jifa a try. Just now, after digesting the harvest of this fishing, Monk is going to meet his ATM. Then go get some money from him. As for how much to get, Monk has 100 billion Baileys in mind. Although 100 billion Baileys is very much, there are only about 10 god-level fishing. Without continuing to think, Monk had a thought, and the random door appeared in front of him. On the side, Momosuke and Hina, as well as Zepha who was staying at another door, could not help but look at Monk. They asked curiously, Monk, where are you going? Shall we go with you? Monk shook his head, no need, I'll go to the Golden City. This sentence made Momosuke, Hina and Zepha immediately understand in their hearts, and the co-authors are going to ask the Golden Emperor to withdraw money again. Monk, Tesoro probably got scared by you, so he didn't care about it. It was considered as spending money to eliminate disasters. This time, let's take it easy. Otherwise, Tesoro will complain to the world government, and the world government will give you back pressurized. Yeah, Monk nodded. As he walked towards any door, he opened his mouth and said, I'll just ask Tesoro for a little money this time. Momosuke and Hina didn't care when they heard that they were only taking a little money. A little bit was nothing to the Golden Emperor. However, Zepha raised his eyebrows and couldn't help asking. So, Monk, how much do you want to take this time? 100 billion Baileys. Monk opened any door while answering Zepha's question. As for the arbitrary door, he didn't use the golden arbitrary door, but the ordinary one. After all, when the junior CJDH was fishing before, Monk left many one-time use arbitrary doors. These one-time monks are not given to Zepha and others, they can just keep them and use them up. And Monk's words stunned Zepha, Momosuke, Hina and others. Advertisement. The three looked at each other with astonishment on their faces. It wasn't until Monk's arbitrary door disappeared that the three of them recovered. Zepha looked at Momosuke and Hina who were inside the room, and asked, how much did Monk say just now? Quote. Momosuke was speechless. Hina's voice was a little rough. Okay, it seems to be 100 billion shells. 100 billion Baileys. Zepha was shocked. This is a little bit of Monk's mouth. Mud horse. It's outrageous. The three of them are speechless. Is this called a little bit? It is indeed a little bit, but this one is billion. Golden City. Inside Tesoro's mansion office, he was currently answering Brother Ming's phone bug. On the other end of the phone bug, Brother Ming asked the Golden Emperor if he wanted any magical items. Of course, these magical items are replicas and do not have the original heaven-defying effect of Monk. Tesolo's eyes lit up when he heard it. Although it is not the genuine version of Monk, even the replica developed by it is very effective. With the addition of Guy, the efficacy of the original Xiaoshondo has been improved, and the efficacy has reached about 50%. Even stumps and broken arms can be regenerated, but it will take a long time, and it cannot be healed instantly like Monk's fairy bean. The Golden Emperor didn't care about this, he just wanted to agree. Suddenly an indescribable pressure swept the audience. The entire Golden City began to shake violently. The Golden Emperor quickly looked to the outside world, only to see that the clouds above the sky kept churning, as if the end of the world was coming. Such a scene made the Golden Emperor's scalp tingle. He had seen something similar, not long ago. That is to say, there it is again. The Golden Emperor ignored Brother Ming's phone bug, and directly hung up the phone bug and went to the outside world. When he came to the roof of the building, the Golden Emperor was completely stunned. The originally bustling Golden City below was now full of people. Everyone simply can't bear Monk's powerful Conqueror's Haki. Not to mention people, even some buildings made of gold couldn't bear it, and cracks appeared one after another under the sweep of the powerful Conqueror's Haki. Just by releasing the Conqueror's Haki, it can damage the hard gold. How terrible is the Conqueror's Haki? This Conqueror's Haki is stronger than before. Misty. How did Monk improve? On the street not far away, Monk slowly walked towards the building. His steps were light, surrounded by people lying down and fainting on the ground, and some buildings collapsed as he walked. The Conqueror's Haki beyond the god level, the unparalleled conquerors, everything that passes is nothing. As for why Tesoro has nothing to do, of course Monk didn't suppress him, or else Tesoro fainted. Where would Monk ask for money? In this way, Monk walked slowly to the bottom of the building. He didn't take the elevator, and he didn't choose to jump up. He felt that doing so was too low. His footsteps did not stop, he kept walking, and with the flames appearing in the void, Monk stepped up and walked through the air. That's Flame Cloud. At the beginning Kaido was able to maintain the Flame Cloud to consign the entire Ghost Island under normal conditions, so Monk got the inspiration. In this way, step by step, we slowly walked towards the building. Boom. The powerful Conqueror's Haki directly shattered the glass of the building, making the whole building tremble, as if sending out pity. Looking at the approaching Monk, the Golden Emperor no longer had any blood on his face. Even if Monk's Conqueror's Haki didn't crush him, Tesoro was filled with fear. In his eyes, Monk is like an unparalleled king, an absolute monarch comparable to the common people, and everything in the world is an ant in front of this person. And ants cannot look directly at the king, and ants are not qualified to stand in front of the king. The Golden Emperor trembled all over, sweating continuously, and finally knelt down like a commoner bowing down to a king. Advertisement. And at this moment, Monk just walked to Tesoro's side. The Conqueror's Haki, which has surpassed the god level and reached the unparalleled level, not only deters others from the outside, but also achieves psychological deterrence. The Golden Emperor was defeated by Monk's Conqueror's Haki and surrendered to him. When Monk went to the Golden City, the second half of the New World, aboard the Mobity, Whitebeard said in a low voice, "Rayleigh, Shiki, I came here this time to ask for your help." Rayleigh didn't say much, and said somewhat disappointedly, "You don't need to say more, Whitebeard. Shanks has already given everything to me. I didn't expect Roger's bloodline to be Fire Fist, Ace. It's no wonder that when I saw his reward order, I had a feeling of deja vu, so it was. Rayleigh seemed to recall the past, with vicissitudes in his eyes, but soon the corners of his mouth were drawn. How can I let go of that guy's mantle? On the side, Golden Lion didn't have any interest at first, but after hearing that it was Roger's descendants who were executed this time, he couldn't help but suddenly realized. He finally solved the doubt in his heart. First said that Marine will travel to your second team in public, Whitebeard. Even I don't have that qualification, that's the reason why I co-authored. It seems that Marine knows the identity of Ace. Ha ha ha, Whitebeard, I really didn't expect that you are. Golden Lion's face was full of banter. Seeing that Rayleigh had already agreed, Whitebeard glanced at Golden Lion aside, narrowed his eyes and said, "Shiki, do you want to say that I actually raised a son for Roger?" Ha ha ha, that's right, you actually raised a child for our deadly enemy, it's ridiculous. Whitebeard said coldly, "Since Ace calls me daddy, then I don't care whose son he is or what kind of past he is my son." Hee, it's really just playing tricks. Golden Lion also sneered. No wonder your fourth team will die. It really deserves it. News of Thatch's death had spread across the oceans, so it's no surprise that the Golden Lion knew. Boom. All of a sudden, a powerful aura erupted around Whitebeard's body. He glared at Golden Lion and raised his voice. "Shiki." Whitebeard wouldn't be so d if the Golden Lion had said him, but the Golden Lion said sage. He deserved it, said his son, and Whitebeard didn't want to. The Golden Lion on the opposite side was shocked by Whitebeard's aura, stepped back, and immediately burst out with aura. The two powerhouses from the old era are colliding with each other at this moment, but because it is not Conqueror's Haki, there is no Black Thunder, and there is no Black Thunder because of Conqueror's Haki. Haki's counter bang split the sky. "Shiki, you are really weak. It seems that the storm that year caused you a lot of damage." Whitebeard sneered. Golden Lion snorted coldly, and then said, "Otherwise, do you think Garp and Sengoku could win it back then?" "Shiki, stop bragging," Rayleigh said with a smile. Only Whitebeard, Rayleigh and other strong men from the old era who can speak for themselves are present, and even red-haired people have no qualifications in terms of seniority. When Whitebeard, Golden Lion and other powerhouses were powerful in the sea, the red hair was just a master. "Rayleigh, what right do you have to interrupt? If you hadn't been lucky back then, you would be my crew member now." Rayleigh was not angry either. "Shiki, your personality hasn't changed at all. Don't talk about these meaningless things, we all ask for something, what you want is the source rope of age, so that you can return to the subversive period. And if you choose to help now, we can give you immortal beans and let you recover from your old disease first. That's right, as long as you promise, we can give you fairy beans first to restore your old disease." Golden Lion couldn't help but his eyes flashed, recovering from his old illness. Advertisement.